Hello, everyone, and welcome to Smashbox TV's podcast 414.
The 414. That's the Milwaukee area code.
Straight up area code in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, where we're coming to you from. I'm Terry Miller, the disc golf guy, alongside Johnny V. And back in our day, Johnny, there was only, three area codes in all of Wisconsin?
414, 920, 715.
Nope. Before that.
Oh.
920 got added much later.
That's true.
414 was the southeastern Wisconsin.
608, the Madison area.
Madison was 608 and 715. That was all of Wisconsin. 3 area codes.
Yeah.
Little history you didn't plan on Tuesday night. Here we are. Smashbox 414, though. Who says we're not a disc golf podcast? Tonight,
Everybody.
In just a few moments, actually, we're going to be welcoming in our Great Lakes Open champion, Natalie Ryan. And then after we're done speaking with Natalie Ryan, we're going to have the Great Lakes Open tournament director. He's also was recently the tournament director for the Junior and Masters Worlds.
Did he get voted onto the board of directors again?
And no, I don't think so. But and he is going to be the Ledgestone Insurance Open TD, which is our next Disc Golf Pro Tour Elite Series event. Of course, that's coming up right after the Mid-America, which is going to be coming up this weekend, the weekend after the massive, intense week that is Ledgestone. And I'm talking about our PDGA Board of Directors, TD super guy, whatever, Nate Heinold.
He literally got 2 write-in votes, I think.
Yeah, and we'll talk more about the election a little bit later, but I appreciate you, the 4 people that wasted a vote by writing me in.
How many votes came to your house? 3?
Okay. Maybe. Yeah, there were 4 write-in votes. I was gonna say, I'm not even flattered. I'm a little saddened that you guys, whoever did that you wasted a legitimate vote. And you could have applied it to one of our already eligible candidates, but
if maybe there wasn't somebody that they supported,
they
thought they would fill it in.
One way to abstain. Well, someday, I don't know if I can say mark my words, but someday
you'll think about it.
I'll think about maybe possibly running for a position on the board.
I personally am going to claim all the others because people couldn't spell my name.
Yeah.
That's all I'm claiming. Just
that makes sense. Well,
great.
So, again, we'll talk about that later. We got some more info to get out of Nate Heinold. He's got a lot of things going on. But right now, all that matters is we have our champion, our FPO champion from this weekend, joining us for the first time in 9 months. The last time she was here, she was champion of an A tier. Now she's champion of an Elite Series event. I'm talking about Natalie Ryan. Good evening, Natalie. How you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you guys?
We are good. 414 episodes later.
We're getting close. I always love that when you come on, you've got the best headset. Honestly, built-in headphones, microphone. Don't have to worry about any echo cancellation. None of that stuff. You look like you're ready to frag some people in Call of Duty. That's all I'm saying.
I mean, I don't want to miss out on your lovely voices. I mean, I got to get all of it. You know?
Do the kids still say frag?
Yeah. Are you poning noobs out there? Do kids still say that? No, you
I might be. Who knows?
Do you do online gaming? I feel like those headsets usually go hand in hand with online gaming.
I do a little, but it's mostly like player versus environment or enemy. It's not really player versus player for me. I don't really get a lot of enjoyment out of that, but I do a little bit of gaming on the side.
Okay, and have you had already off the rails? Have you had that conversation at all with Haley King, who seems to be doing a lot of gaming and then posting about it?
I haven't, but I might have to tonight.
Okay. Yeah, I just know that often when we see her posting, I think that's a legitimate form of her relaxation is that she does some gaming. She's been posting about it quite a bit. And I keep thinking if somehow, unfortunately, we ever lose her from the tour, I feel like gaming is the place that she would go. So either way, thank you for joining us. And as I was just alluding to, the last time that we talked to you, I believe was October of 2021, so almost 9 months ago or so, and you had just won Stafford? Does that ring a bell?
Down East Players Cup.
I apologize. Down East Players Cup. I think we talked about Stafford at one point. You had won the Down East Players Cup. There were 14 competitors in the division, and that was, as you said, your largest win to date. So
Yes.
we talked about van life. We talked about part-time and full-time work. We talked about the tour and you possibly ever taking down some of the best in the world to win an Elite Series event. So from your perspective, kind of fast forward through those 9 months for us. What does that mean to you?
Oh, Lord. I honestly didn't think I'd have ever really done it. I'm kind of at a loss for words when it comes to kind of describing how I've been feeling the last couple days based on that. But it's just, I don't know. I always knew I could kind of win one of the Elite Series events. I just never thought it would really ever happen. I don't exactly know why. It's just one of those gut feelings I've always had in the entire year so far.
This year has, I think back to the opener of this year, and I remember very vividly when I was out on the sidelines walking around that you had some form of injury and something wasn't right when we were at Las Vegas. And so
Yes.
maybe describe a few of the physical injuries that you've either endured or that may or may not be lingering or nagging for you in general.
So yeah, this year I've had a significant number of injuries that I probably should look at maybe trying to fix a little better with my practice. So at Vegas, I hurt my hamstring. I think it was just a pulled muscle at the time, but it was enough to pull me out of the event. And then not even, I think a month later, I had messed up something in my shoulder. I'm not even really sure what it was, but that dropped me out of the Open at Belton. And so on and so forth. There were a number of injuries that I've had this year that have kept me from really playing my best when it mattered. I don't exactly know why they keep happening though. I think it's mostly just an overwork issue. So I've been kind of trying to lessen the number of practice rounds I've been playing and try and do more rest and recovery rather than 2-3 rounds a day like I was last year.
More putting practice.
Seems to have been helping more recently. Yeah, for sure.
That's a little easier on the body than throwing 350 to 400 feet constantly.
Yeah, and I guess to that point, someone that's been added to the Pro Tour in the last few years, originally he was around with Disc Golf Strong, and now he's there very much as an asset to our Pro Tour athletes in a lot of ways, is Seth Muncey. Do you check in with Seth? Do you do any warm-ups with Seth or cool downs or anything of that nature? Or do you handle most of your ailments and issues on your own?
So when my initial first couple of injuries happened, I had pretty much exclusively gone to Seth for advice on how to rest, how to recover, how to get back into the game quicker, all of that sort of stuff. And his advice was instrumental in me getting back so quickly to Waco following Vegas and to, I believe it was, what was after? I had to skip Texas State's after Belton, but the tournament following that, I was 100% again, thanks to his advice and his help. But I haven't been going to him as much recently because I kind of have been just using his advice continuously, just been kind of working with what he has told me those times, just continuously forward rather than constantly trying to bother him. So it's been kind of helping.
Well, I just think of Seth, and I see him in the warm-up zone and what he's been doing, and there are frequent visitors in there. I see some people in there every single weekend, sometimes before and after the round, and I just think about truly the resource that he has become and everything that he and the Pro Tour provide in that way. And what do I know? But I would encourage you. I mean, I don't think it's bothering him at all. I think I would certainly encourage you to try to take full advantage. I mean, we've come a long way in disc golf to now that we even have a person like him. So the fact that he's there, I think you should certainly utilize him whenever you can. One of the other big things that we talked about a lot of fun stuff, including your parkour, including locksmithing, all sorts of things. But we talked about touring and a van and what that meant, what that might look like, and your plans for it. So tell us where your van and your tour life is in that regard.
So my van is actually very, very good right now. Like a month ago or so, we were having a little bit of mechanical problems with the engine, but we took some time off just before this previous event. Oh God, I already forgot the name of it. That's not
DGLO?
going to be great. DGLO, there we go.
The one you won.
Yeah, the one I won. Yeah, I already
Just call it
somehow.
DGLO. I mean, it's the Discraft Great Lakes Open, but it's been known,
DGLO
forever as DGLO. Yep.
Yep. But just before that, we had actually gone home and gotten the van serviced. So the engine's in better shape than it's been in years, I'm sure. So we're back on the road, less stress, no worries about stopping halfway, getting stuck somewhere. It's been much, much better since we got back on tour this year.
And what did we were talking about your van build out, if you had any inspirations, if you saw any other vans, things that you absolutely wanted to have, versus maybe things that would be bonuses. We also talked about a budget on that. Do you remember any of those details, or where are you at? And I'll help you compare some of the previous thoughts.
We pretty much did exactly what I think we actually mentioned last time. We spent just about as much money as we thought we were going to, and we got exactly the things we thought we were going to need, and we don't regret any of the decisions we did make.
Okay.
Having a very large fridge and a full-size sink in there is huge whenever you're on tour.
Yeah, everybody I feel like has a slightly different focus. One of the most recent vans that I was in, somebody with candy. No. One of the vans I was in, though, was Kelvin Heimberg's, and how he prioritized, of course, he's a taller guy, so, the size of his bed and some of the things that he found most valuable as opposed to what others prioritize. It's really interesting, and it says a lot, I feel like, about the overall personalities. So you said a fridge, and what else did you have in there?
So we have a full-size sink with,
okay.
tap and everything. We have, seating, tables, food storage, and a twin size bed. So it's enough for two people to sleep in, but it is a little tight. But we kind of prioritized having a little more leg room since there were going to be two of us sleeping in it year round. So
what would be your advice now that you're this far in with a van specifically, and that there's hundreds of aspiring, if not thousands of aspiring men and women that are out there that are thinking about getting on the tour. They see that van life seems to be the most viable way to do it. What would be your now words of wisdom and advice?
Words of wisdom: only bring what you need and what you absolutely need. There are going to be things that you want, and they're going to sit there and do nothing the whole time you're on tour. We have stuff just stuffed underneath a whole bunch of boxes in the back of our trunk that we haven't touched since we left, and I keep forgetting to get rid of them. But that's the biggest thing. Just don't overpack. Travel light, design what you want, and if you don't want it, you probably aren't going to use it. So
what aren't you using? Like
what aren't I using? We brought a poker set that has sat in the bottom of our laundry bin for the entire tour.
Okay. So either online poker is where it's at, or either
just
other
keeping
games
track of it digitally, maybe somehow, or paper.
Yeah. Okay. Do you play cribbage?
I don't. I've never even heard of it, actually.
Oh, geez.
She's not. Where did you grow up again?
Virginia.
Yeah.
So
okay.
I knew you're from Virginia, but sometimes if you grow up and move there, I wasn't exactly sure. Cribbage is a Midwest game, mostly kind of, that type of heritage. So it's not shocking that you have not played it or heard of it.
Yeah, but you need to, I guess, is where we'll go.
All right. You know what? I'll look it up.
We'll teach you how to play
yes,
sometime.
we will. Johnny and I have dabbled in cribbage tournaments. It gets serious.
It's serious.
So let's jump into a few specifics for the weekend, and even just looking, we go all the way back to round number 1, and you shot a pretty clean round out there. The only bogey that you had was on hole number 7. What? Mm-hmm. What comes to mind when you are, now have processed a few days? What comes to mind if when I say round number 1 at DGLO? What do you think about?
I think about that bogey and how I wish it wasn't a bogey.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
what
I
happened
struggle
there?
to not focus on my mistakes. Well, I miscue off the tee, and then a second miscue immediately after that on the upshot made it very challenging to get up and down at that point. And then the rest of that's just history.
Yeah, and 7, for
So
those that remember, slightly uphill onto an initial kind of plateau, and then generally you're
Yes.
going to have 150 to maybe 200 at most is what you should have for the approach shot
Yep.
onto another kind of hillside or top of a hill. There's danger both left and right, but you got to keep that one clean, right?
yeah, so the tee shot I ended up short, low, not even up the hill. So I had no look to get to the pin from my upshot, and ended up needing to try and just kind of get up and down for par. And I threw it directly into the hill on the second shot. So I ended the same shot again, almost, and that made it much more challenging to get the par rather than the bogey. So.
Okay, so that's round 1. I mean, of course, you made probably a few other minor mistakes, but the biggest mistake resulting in a bogey in that sense. What happened? What are you thinking when I ask you about round number 2 and your performance during that round?
So round number 2, it genuinely felt like I couldn't make a mistake, which is something I've never actually had happen before. No matter what shot I decided to throw or choose to do, I couldn't miss. There was only, I think, one putt inside the circle that I really notably should have made, and that was because I thought about it a little too much. And as soon as that happened, I backed up, realized I thought about it too much, and then didn't miss any for the rest of the round. So I don't know, that it's a surreal feeling when you step up to the tee and you choose the line you want and the disc you want, and then it does that exact same thing every single hole.
You know, the common phrasing, as you just described, it feels like everybody says, I was in a flow state. I'm not thinking about anything, and essentially everything is just going right. Is that a way you would describe it, or is there some other descriptors you would use for how things were going?
So I probably wouldn't describe it like that. I was making a lot of different choices that I didn't make in round 1, and even during practice. I was throwing the tee shots that I'd liked, but I had a lot of different lies from the fairway that I had to think about and make choices on. And those choices were just the correct ones.
Yeah, and I'm looking at your stats. You had
will say that
80% scramble during that round, 88% C1X putting. So you literally just missed one putt inside C1X, and you had that mistake on hole 18 of an out of bounds. So overall, yeah, that certainly had to feel good. Do you feel as if, as I'm looking at all 3 of your scorecards, do you feel as if there's a front or the back that plays easier one than the other on this particular course?
I would say the front 9 for sure. The first 5 holes, I want to get all of them.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't feel like a lot of people can actually say that, because most people, I think, are just trying to par hole 1. But I mean, I was attacking that every time. I didn't get it any time, but I was still attacking it.
Well, it's reachable for most of the women.
Yes.
We saw Emily Beach got it all 3 rounds, I believe. And granted, she is a power lefty, and it does set up a little bit better and easier for her. Missy Gannon, I believe, got it 2 out of the 3 rounds. It's this I don't want to say surprising, but I feel like watching the what we watched of the FPO cards seemed to have an easier time with it than the MPO. Just a lot of the men were either blowing past it, not turning it over, going right into the woods. I felt like the top 2 cards for FPO handled that hole better, whether it was because they dialed it back a little bit, or maybe they can go harder at it and not have to worry about going out of bounds. I don't know, but I was very impressed with watching hole 1. I had more fun watching the women play that hole than the men.
Yeah, now, I believe that. I think a lot of it comes down to the women choose to lay up a bit more often than the men will. There's more incentive in MPO for them to just run every green no matter what hole it looks like. And FPO is not quite the same.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Haven't we seen you bust out some shorter lefty putts? Have we seen you with some lefty drives?
Not really off the tee, no.
Okay.
I will occasionally scramble if I'm like off the fairway. I'll use my left hand to forehand, but that's about it.
Okay. Is that a goal? I mean, I think, we obviously we saw Eagle in Europe, and he's kind of talked about developing that. Is that a goal? Because I feel like hole 1 is quite arguably the best, setup for a power lefty, as Emily Beach proves. Would that be a goal of yours to have that?
It is. This offseason, I'm going to be trying to develop it a little bit so that I don't have as much reliance on my forehand. I've been hurting myself a little too often with my forehand, and I don't want to anymore. So I'm going to try to do my best to try and learn lefty instead. And, well, fingers crossed it works out, I guess.
Okay. Break down how you. Well, we'll get back to that in a minute. I want to talk a little bit about your form, but first, let's talk about round number 3. Of course, having, I'll say, the pressures of the big X on your back and having the lead. And, when you, to borrow a Philo term, when you've got sharks in the water, when you have Paige Pierce and others that are obviously not only have come from behind. Paige has come from behind from a 6-stroke deficit, I think 3 times or 6 times or something like that. It's like some absurd number. She comes back and catches people. So what are your thoughts going into Sunday morning with a 4-stroke lead?
Yes, 4-stroke lead. My thoughts were I need to shoot a 4 under or better. And I didn't do that, but I had strokes to spare when I decided I didn't need to do that anymore. I knew that there was going to be someone charging. I just didn't know who it was going to be. Turned out it was Owen. Mm-hmm. But I knew I would need to be at least under par by a couple or more to keep pace with what everyone else was going to do, either just behind me or chase card further out. And I did so. I did so very scary, but I did that.
Talk about, when I think of the last round, and I think of, whether you call it a match play mentality or a defensive strategy or however you want to word it. Talk about the last couple of holes, and if you knew where scores were at, your caddy, like what's some of that dialogue as you're trying to close out, and how are you battling through it?
So the biggest thing that comes to mind is on hole 14 when I kind of shanked my tee shot up the hill, ended up way right side, and then just blasted all the way across the fairway into the rough on the left, and just had to chop myself away to a bogey.
Yeah.
Everyone else luckily didn't birdie that hole that round, because if they had, it would have been very, very scary. But me losing a stroke there, I knew it was within either 1 or 2, I think at that point. I knew it was close coming through that hole. So going into 15, I knew I needed to play it either very well or hope everyone else messed up. And both actually ended up happening. So that I had that comfortable lead going into 16. I think I had 3 or 4 or something like that going into 16. And at that point, I knew I just could par out, and it didn't matter really what I did off the tee or even on the upshots. So I just kind of coasted in at that point.
Yeah, there was a point that we were actually in the control room talking about whether or not Owen Scoggins was a danger from, I think, the second or third card, because with a few holes to go, we thought, I mean, if you have a rough time on 16, 17, 18, that brings Owen right back into it. So we were on high alert here, because lately Owen's been crushing it. So once you got through hole 16, in the control room, we called it. We knew that it wasn't going to happen for Owen, and that was the only chance, because we knew that Emily, unfortunately, with hole 18 being the hole that it is, we basically considered it not a hole. Nobody's birdieing it. This is the first year anyone's ever birdied it.
Yeah. And that was Ella Hansen with a 49-footer.
Yeah, and Paige got it on the final round.
Yeah, correct. I mean, it's just statistically, you're assuming that's a par at best.
Yeah, Paige got it from circle 2 as well.
So how does that vary or differ? Let's just play pretend and say you're in what you believe is 4th place, and you've got a couple holes left to play. Are you having similar conversations with either yourself or your caddy in terms of, hey, here's just where I want to finish, or what do I need to do to hold on to fourth, or is third still obtainable? Are you having any of those kind of conversations, or are you just head down, I'm just trying to birdie out?
I definitely have those conversations. I have my caddy basically look at scores for me, and then I will basically just ask him where I'm at and what can I do to play my best in that moment. And he'll either let me know, hey, just par out, you're fine, or birdie everything and you'll move up, or something like that. And he won't really put it into numbers, so to speak, so that it doesn't really get in my head. And that is instrumental, huge, honestly, just to help me kind of focus on playing rather than worrying about the scores. And that's what kind of happened after hole 14. I'd asked him, what do I need to do? Am I fine? And he said, just play your game. Don't worry about what they're going to do. And that was what happened.
I feel as if, and I've, it always puts a smile on my face when I hear that caddies, like you just said, don't necessarily have to give a number. They can just say, just keep doing what you're doing, or you're fine. Like, they can keep it generic enough, and then that's usually code. Like, hey, just that. Just you're fine. Keep doing what you're doing, and don't stress over anything. And I think that's got to be one of the most satisfying feelings in the world. Of like, hey, they're not telling me I need to birdie this, or I don't need to do this,
caddy.
or
that's what. Yeah,
it is a good caddy. But I think just as a player, man, that affirmation has to feel incredible.
It does. Hearing that, knowing there were only 3 holes to go, I pretty much at that moment knew I kind of had it, which was a massive relief off of my shoulders at that point, because I was. Up until 14, I was very, very stressed out. And I think that kind of was noticeable through that back 9. I'd made quite a few too many mistakes in that early half of the back 9, and then kind of cleaned it up a little bit near the end. But yeah.
Now, I often see, doesn't matter the division, I see bopping along to music. I see big, deep breaths. I see people walking away from crowds and galleries. I feel like I've seen most of the coping mechanisms for someone to calm themselves, to get centered, or to get ramped up, or whatever it is when they're in these high pressure situations. What do you feel like is your go-to? What gets you calmed down, if anything?
I don't know if I really have a strategy to do that. I think mostly it's just my routine. After I throw basically every shot, I walk back to my bag. I get a sip of kind of like Gatorade, body armor, one of those kind of things, and then I will drink some water right after it, and maybe have a snack. And it's enough of a distraction to keep me away from being stressed about playing. So that's kind of how I've always kind of strategized with that. I never really came up with like a let's go with the music kind of thing.
Sure. Well, I feel like there's as most of our players will say to some degree, there's a calming security in your routine. And maybe that's why routines are just that. They're so crucial and critical, because they're that one place where everybody can reset themselves. And then if they go through their routine, they're trusting their instincts, they're, going through the process, whatever phrasing you want to use. It feels like that's kind of something that always brings them back to it, is just go through the routine. Yeah. Now, jumping into your success, and then you saying, especially in the post-run interview, you've been working hard, and you said it. You said it 9 months ago when we had you and we got to know you a little bit more. You said that you feel as if you're working as hard or harder than anyone else out there in terms of hitting the practice fields, in terms of practice putting and doing those things. Do you still have that drive? And if so, what does that look like for you? What does that commitment look like?
Still have that drive. So I have a schedule in my phone that basically is wake up, eat breakfast, go practice. When you're done with that, eat lunch, field work, putting, all that, go to the gym, work out, shower, and then go to bed, repeat until the tournament starts. I don't feel like anyone else really has that. not in that capacity. Like they might have a, let's wake up, let's figure out kind of what to do for breakfast, go to the course maybe at this time. I don't know. We'll play with this person, and then they'll go home, and that'll be it. Most people I don't feel like actually finish their round and then work on the shots that they didn't do well that day, and then practice the putts they didn't do well that day, and that's something I kind of try to focus on.
Where does that commitment and dedication come from? How do you maintain the regimen and that kind of focus?
So it mostly stems from knowing that there are people in this sport that have been playing it for 5 times the amount of time that I have played it, and it's out of a sense of needing to catch up.
Who do you have to catch up to? I mean, I know that sounds silly, but who are you looking at when you're talking about playing catch up? Who do you feel like you need to catch up to?
It's different people for different things. I feel like Paige has better touch than I do. I feel like Owen definitely putts better than I do. It's across the board. There's different people that are better at different things, and I want to catch up to all of them.
You also said in the post-run interview that Paige outdrives you. You of course have talked about having power and then some accuracy to go along with it as we look at this last course. But do you have a ceiling? Do you have a limit as to where you feel like your distance can get to? And do you ever think about like what Jen Allen has done and with her 558-foot throw or record throw? Do you have any of those aspirations?
I do and I don't. My main focus right now is on disc golf, competition. I'm not so much focused on just throwing really, really far. That's never really been my focus. Well, I guess that's not entirely true. It kind of was my focus when I just started playing. But when I realized that wasn't the whole game, I stopped kind of focusing on it.
I think that's every new player's thing. Like when you start, everybody wants to.
You want to throw far.
Everyone wants to throw far. Like that's the coolest thing. Cool. It's the coolest thing when a disc comes out of your hands and it goes 400 feet, or you're like, holy, I just broke 400, or you're posting on it social media, your UDisc tracking and all that stuff. Everybody wants to throw far when they start.
Yeah. But after I kind of moved on from trying to throw far, I realized that the distance that I have now is enough. I don't need to try and throw farther, and I don't really intend on trying to do so. Could I maybe get another 50 feet? Maybe, but I'm not going to try and find out because I don't think I need it.
Okay, so then I guess I'll follow that up with, what do you need? If you feel like you're, for lack of a better phrasing, we'll just say your distance is currently adequate, what do you feel like is, I know you just said Paige has maybe better touch than you and owns a better putter. Are those the next, kind of areas of focus for you?
Yes, for sure. I want better accuracy across the board. I may be able to drive it really far, but if it's not an open field, I miss a lot. And that's a struggle that I have, and I'm going to try and fix it as best I can.
Now, and I certainly don't want to harp on it because I don't think anybody loves it, but, you talked with us a little bit about how a few weeks ago you weren't in a good mind frame and in a good mental space as you were competing back at the Idlewild Open. What are some of the best ways that what's the best way that you combat that? And then do you have advice for others? Do you feel like other people maybe ignore that and try and fight through it in a different way? What's your take on that, knowing everyone's a little different, of course?
So I just step away from things. That's the best way that I handle, being anxious or being depressed. I need to, take a few steps back, find, something that can relax me or remove me from the situation that is causing it. And a lot of the time, disc golf is part of the reason that that's happening for me. As sad as that is, you hear all these stories that disc golf's the one thing that saved them from that. And, being outside and exercising and that, it's usually very, very helpful for it. But it's different in my case because of all of the hate and vitriol and all this other nonsense I see online and get sent every day. So taking a step away from that for me is the only thing that really helps. at the moment. So that's what I did when I went home after Idlewild. I went home. I didn't talk about disc golf for like a week. We didn't really play for like a week, and then I got back into it slowly, and here we are.
I almost hate to even ask this, but is there a chance that the disc golf community could chase you out, like for the reasons you just explained? Do you feel like that? Yeah, that could even ever happen?
No. They might make me, sit down, take a minute for myself here and there, but they're never going to make me quit this sport. This sport's so fun. I mean, throwing a disc as far as you can and watching it shape a line, there's nothing that beats that.
One of the criticisms that I saw was that it felt as almost if you or anyone for that matter at all removes themselves from a tournament, that it could mess with the flow or the vibe, whether it's that individual card or it's the overall tournament round for that day because of withdrawal. Does that concern you at all? I mean, is that does a concern of that nature hit you at all?
No, not so much. Because in those moments when when anybody needs to drop out of an event like that for that reason, it shouldn't be a worry in your mind. Like you need to do what you need to do to be healthy, and worrying about what everyone else is doing or anything like that that's on them.
Yeah, I can totally understand that. I always feel like we always know what's best for ourselves, and whatever that might be, and somebody else doesn't need to understand that. It might impact or negatively in some capacity affect someone else, but at the end of the day, like you have to look out for number one, whatever that is. And if that means you have to withdraw yourself from a tournament or remove yourself from a situation, I very much can understand that. And I think exactly as you said, you have to do what's the best possible solution for you. The rest of the season is, we're 2/3, roughly 2/3 of the way through the season. How excited are you? I mean, when I think about like the
Ledgestone Worlds,
not
MVP,
just the events, but
DMC.
how much of a boost does an event like this last one and the win give you? How much are you looking forward to the next swing here or the next handful of events?
I have been looking forward to it since we started, because they are the events I played last year. And I feel like I have a little bit more, knowledge of the courses, so I don't need to practice as much, which will be massive, because then I can actually, focus on, rest, recovery, all that other stuff I talked about earlier. But I also know that, GMC is probably my favorite event of the year by far. Those courses are just gorgeous, and there's no place just quite like that. And I don't know. World's coming up soon. It's the anxiousness is getting up there a little bit, but it's going to be a great finish to the year, I think.
Yeah, I mean, when you start thinking about the East Coast swing, the golf that gets played out there, we have a little bit of openness. We have a lot of woods. We have slightly cooler temperatures. I feel like, it's just entirely part of the overall season, and it's like we shift into just a whole nother dimension of the season as we push forward.
Everybody knows fall golf is the best golf.
Yeah, I mean, you're just silly if you think otherwise.
I mean, spring golf is too wet.
Yep.
Summer golf is too hot. Fall golf is the best golf.
Yes, that makes
perfect temperature, sense. Gorgeous trees everywhere. What more do you need?
That's what I'm saying.
How do you like your chances in terms of future events? I mean, you've now, you said it in the interview that you feel like you belong, and how do you like your chances as you stack up against other events and we'll say other course challenges?
I like them a lot, honestly. After this weekend, seeing the positivity, actually, that I was a little surprised about it. It vastly outweighed the negativity that I usually see whenever I do something well. And to notice that for once, it kind of fills me with a little more confidence than I expected. So going forward, I'm planning on full steam ahead. try to do my best in every event instead of, worrying about what everyone else thinks is going to happen.
When you talk about that positivity and feeling some of that, we'll say love, is that on site? Is that online? Is that, where does that come from? How are you embracing that, and where's it coming from?
So as much as I probably shouldn't, I look at just about every comment that everyone posts pretty much across the board online.
Why? What? No, I mean, shouldn't you be using, this is another perfect use for a caddy, right? Like, you don't have to look at scores. You don't have to look at comments. Like, just hand the phone to him and there you go.
I won't look during the round and I won't look during the tournament, but as soon as the tournament's over, I'll look. And I was pleasantly surprised this time to actually see that, people were standing up for me without any, incentive to do so. And it was honestly really, really nice to see. But like, even just 9 months ago, after winning that 8th here, there was a lot worse of a reaction for just that. And seeing the positivity come out from winning DGLO this year is massive.
I'll be the first to admit I'm almost to a copy and paste version of this,
like a response
in terms of a response, and I feel like I kind of very loudly blurted this out a few weeks ago, and I'll say it in a slightly more polite version this week. And please correct me if you disagree with it, but there continues to be a conversation about the policy which you fully abide by, and you play under the rules that are set forth in front of you. And we'll talk more about this, probably with Nate in terms of, policies and subcommittees and everything. But the point is, there's a policy that's in place. And if people want to have a civil discussion, yourself included, want to have a civil discussion about the policy, I think that's 100% viable, as it is going on in almost all sports. My problem is when people want to make it about the person, and they want to make it about you personally, and they want to tear you down, and they want to, call names and do all the terrible things that you already know are happening to you. Policy over the person is what I keep saying. And I guess what I want to ask you is, do you feel that's a fair way to word it? Is that a conversation, or how would you reply if you saw me posting that and said, where I say, we can maybe talk about policies, but let's quit bullying and destroying the person, you or any of our other trans athletes. How would you respond to that? And be blunt with me, please, too.
Oh, I think what you've just said, that is the perfect way to respond to that. Because a lot of the time they don't actually care about the policy. They just don't want me to play. And they do so in a way, they comment in a way that makes it sound like they're worried about the policy, but in reality, they're just being hateful. So making it about the policy to them, when they follow up with that follow-up reply to your comment, when you're talking about just make it about policy, they'll still mention, me and me being a cheater or something like that. And then it's very clear to any outside onlooker that sees that conversation, that the person that's talking about, me in general is just an idiot.
They want to make it so personal. And what I wish just people could understand, that there's a separation. And somebody said it earlier today to me, that you happen to right now, you're the, especially after winning, you're the face of this conversation, and you've been very bold and very brutally honest and upfront with us, and I'm sure with plenty of other people.
Nova thanks you, by the way.
Yeah,
she's on the board. She's like, it was a few weeks ago I was getting it. Now it's Natalie.
Yeah,
so it's passed on,
and at maybe even an increased level because of the Elite Series. Congratulations, Nova, to your play as well. But
Nova won a world championship.
I know, that's what I'm saying. But my point is, it's just disheartening to see that they can't separate, and that you're not a villain, or to quote you said, you don't want people to see you as a monster. And
right.
I guess my question, if I can find one here, would be, when people do challenge you with saying it's either an advantage or any of the other hundreds of versions of comments that you see, Do you have a stock response? Do you have anything pointed or specific you'd like to address everybody with on this platform?
So the biggest thing that I like to kind of harp back to is that, I mentioned this in the post-round interview after winning, that I don't do anything in this sport better than everyone else in it. I'm good at a couple of things, but I am not the best at any one thing. I throw far, but there are people that throw farther. I can putt well, but there are people that putt better. Like, when it comes down to it, I'm not, incredibly good like they think I am. I'm not, I don't have an advantage. They seem to think I have something that makes it easier for me to do all these things. But I can promise you, when I throw 430 feet, I am putting every ounce of my being into that disc. And I'm sure there are many other people out there that do just the same thing.
Yeah, and it naturally, and again, I've said this now for a few days. I feel like a lot of people, traded in their online degrees that they got during COVID to now become psychologists and biologists. So we can all spew all the same words about puberty and fast twitch muscles and hip structure and bone structure and all of those things. And I'm not dismissing them. Clearly, those are all parts of this overall conversation, and I'm not saying they're not. But those are the things that people immediately go to and then say that that's where your advantage comes from. And you're saying that you don't feel that's the case, especially with the therapy and everything else that you've gone through. Is that what you're telling us?
I don't feel that way. Okay. They may give me small advantages. I don't know, because I'm not a scientist. Sure. I'm not going to pretend here that I know better than people doing research. If someone wants to do that research and tell me that that's the case, sure, by all means, I'll listen. But in the same vein, like, I'm not incredible in this sport at every single thing like MPO players are. Like, hormones have, in fact, made me considerably weaker, just overall. They've made me a little bit shorter. Like, there are small things that happen to the body that hormones affect that people don't understand that they can affect. Like, I dropped 2 shoe sizes. Like, there are crazy wild things that hormones mess with, and people just think that, oh well, it's just removing the testosterone. That's the only thing that does, and that's just not true. Now,
nothing more than just genuine speculation, because we've talked about and we've heard all sorts of different solutions. And I feel like there's 3 main solutions that have been thrown out there. One, everything stays as it is. 2, there becomes a transgender division that's exclusive for transgender athletes. Or 3, you play in the MPO division. I feel like those are the 3, as far as I know of, those are the 3 main things that are suggested or thrown out there. Do you feel strongly about any or all of those solutions? How do you view those when you see those or have those constantly thrown out there?
So those second 2, basically, are the ones that I have issues with. I mean, go figure. But a trans division isn't really something that is a solution. It's kind of like it's segregation at its core. It's removing us from either division because you don't feel like dealing with us. And then we have a division of 2, and no one watches it because there's a division of 2. And then us playing MPO, like, no one will sign up because we aren't competitive in MPO, because we are literally taking, performance reducing, drugs, basically, at this point. So we can't be competitive in MPO. So why would we play MPO?
Okay.
It's another way to remove us from, visibility, which is mostly all they really want.
I guarantee you, if there were a separate division, a separate trans division, and it started to get funding, you would hear these same people complain that they're taking money away from other divisions. You can already see because this same discussion was had about FPO when the money started flowing to FPO to help promote the FPO field. There were a ton of people that were screaming that it's not fair. MPO has more players. MPO is getting the spotlight. They should be getting more money.
Right.
So the minute we start taking resources and whatever and directing it towards a trans division, we're going to have all these same arguments all over again. I don't see that as a viable solution right now.
Yeah. Like there just isn't a solution that's the best for everybody. No one's like not everybody's opinion is going to be satisfied with whatever result happens. Mm-hmm. My take on that is, why would we exclude people based on a few?
Yeah, and I think that becomes one of the major points of conversation here is, other words that often are utilized within this entire conversation, and sometimes very much within with it good intentions. People talk about inclusivity, also talking about fairness, and then I feel like from there we can always have an argument about what's fair. I mean, your version of fair versus Johnny's versus mine versus Johnny's wife and his kid here in his house. Everybody could define fair slightly differently, and I think that makes it just a slippery slope in itself. I'm going to say this for the 100th time as well. I don't feel like I have a perfect solution. I certainly don't. I don't have any degrees. I don't have any research. I don't have any background in this. I may have feelings just like everybody else does, but at the end of the day, for me, it comes down to a subcommittee that is going to take in now more research, as talked about today, and our elected officials and our subcommittee and the people that are doing this for a living are going to be the ones that are kind of going to not only update the policy, or maybe not even update, but just reiterate whatever the policy is, and if there's changes that go along with that. So I guess the follow-up to all of that is, no matter what a policy says as early as 2023, maybe it's a dumb question, but are you good with standing by however the policy gets released, whatever it says? I have nobody has any idea what it's going to say because it's only being drafted.
Or if there's even going to be a new policy.
Or if there's even going to be a new policy. Let's say there is. Is there anything that you would, I don't want to say vehemently against, because obviously there are. What would be the worst case scenario? Maybe that's the best way to put it. What would be the worst case scenario if a new policy comes in and is enacted in 2023? For you personally, what do you feel like is worst case scenario?
Worst case scenario is I'm not allowed to play FPO. If that comes to fruition, I would probably just stop playing the game.
Okay. I mean, I don't. Clearly, they're drafting. I know nothing about any of the scenario, and I don't know where it's going. But all I know is, especially after seeing a post today, both the PDGA and the Pro Tour have basically said there's a committee on it. It was assembled months ago. They're gathering research now, and if there's a policy update, it wouldn't be enacted until the beginning or until 2023. So maybe the follow-up to that is, maybe it would never even happen, but have you had any conversations with the committee in any subcommittee?
I've taken a survey for them. It was fully anonymous, but I have taken it. I'm not going to share any of my responses clearly, but yeah, they sent a survey out for, just general trans people across the board, wanted to see what our feelings were on, how fair the current system was and so forth. And I filled it out as honestly as I could, send it off, and I'm hoping that helps as much as I feel like it would. But I don't know how they're going to vote or how they're going to recommend it or any of that. I hope it's in the side of inclusivity. That's all.
Okay. Is there, we'll start to wrap up. It's already been an hour, which feels like time flies here.
I told you when we did our little pre-check, Terry's like, we'll chat for a half hour, and I laughed and I said, she's been on Smashbox. She understands. I
just know we have a busy night. But is there anything, and it clearly does not have to be anything transgender related, just anything in general that you'd like to share with the world? Anything, whether it's setting anything straight or just sharing with the world that may or may not be even disc golf related. Anything you want to share with us?
Well, I kind of just want to say that sports aren't fair. To all the people that are out there trying to pretend like sports are, inherently super fair, people are born with natural advantages over other people. Just even within the women's division, just cis women have other advantages over cis women. Everyone has something in their corner that they can rely on when it comes to competition or throwing or any sort of mechanical sort of stuff like that. They try to harp on me for some advantage they think I have that they can't prove I have. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if I have something or not, as long as it is within the realm of competition for the FPO division. It should not matter. That's kind of my stance on that. I just wanted to toss that one out there.
I appreciate that, and maybe just to drill down an ounce further on that, by some advantages, you could talk about somebody being of a certain frame size, someone being taller, someone having bigger hands, smaller hands, like all of those different. Are those some of the things that you might be referencing?
Yes, exactly.
For example,
I mean, the biodiversity within the subset of women is, and then the biodiversity of the subset of men. Those two things overlap a lot. Those two regions, they overlap a lot. Like the best man, sure, is going to be better than the best woman, but the middle road, MPO player or something like that is, or not MPO, but the middle of the road, like subset of men, is not going to be better than the best woman. Like that's how these things are. The like overall biodiversity of humans just in general has a ton of overlap between the genders, and people seem to think that they are much farther apart than they are.
Do you think there's a chance, and we're getting off in La La Land here, that regardless of what the PDGA says, the DGPT does something different?
Ooh,
because I
don't know enough, really.
Yeah, I could see a world where the PDGA says this is the policy, and the DGPT says, cool, we're the top elite level of players, and we feel that trans athletes can compete. Maybe it's different for B tiers or C tiers or A tiers. I don't know what the right answer is, and I don't know. Trust me, being a small part of the DGPT as we are, we don't have any of those answers. I would just be curious as if that's even a possibility. And I was actually kind of directing that at Terry and not you so much, because I know Terry would probably have maybe a slightly more insight into that. And
yeah, I don't know, and I'll just quickly maybe say to both of you, there have been those calls. There have been, somebody's even on the board right now saying, well, the DGP is going to pull away from the from the PDGA, and they're going to be separate entities, and therefore going to have entirely separate rules. I personally don't see that happening. It took a lot of years. To
just
have
not anytime soon.
Okay,
I don't see it in the next 5 to 7 years.
Yeah, I mean, they worked hard to coexist and to become synonymous, and the Pro Tour to become the professional tour of the disco of the PDGA. Like, I don't know, but that's a lot of what ifs, and one of the best lines I heard today, and I feel like this is very applicable to a lot of straw man arguments and a lot of things you probably read online as well, Natalie, is instead of talking about what ifs, let's talk about what is. And I just thought that was a really powerful statement. It was coincidentally by an FPO player that I talked to earlier today. And to me, it was a really powerful statement, because there's a lot of people that can say a lot of what ifs and make a lot of straw man and just outlandish, unrealistic what if scenarios. And I just feel like that's not dealing in reality. And those are dealing with extremes rather than dealing with where we are right now. But that's how I feel.
I want to end this on a slightly more upbeat note, maybe, and maybe more light. Even though this might be an awkward question, Natalie, how many of those Neptune shirts do you have?
38.
You wear the same shirt every day, and I'm praying that this isn't awkward, that you're going to say one, and everyone's going to be grossed out. So please tell me, how many of those shirts do you have?
I have like 6 of them.
Okay.
I just wear the same one every day because I love it. But I will have more coming soon, some new stuff.
I was just, and
Okay.
that's perfect. And
Good. That's the answer I wanted to hear. I didn't want to hear anything less than 3.
All right. No, I do want to, that perfectly segues, because I knew what the answer was. I want to segue into just describe the meaning to the shirt. You just said it's your favorite. Describe the meaning and how people can pick up their own and support you. So give us the backstory there, please.
So that's the first piece of professional athletic wear that I've ever had made for me. So it's always going to have something kind of special to me. It's got the the trans flag stripes across it, and not a lot of people seem to know that, but that is the trans flag, striped across it, in the shape of an N, which good on that, and it's got my logo on it, which is the first logo I've ever had. So it's a special one for me for sure. I'm going to be wearing it forever, I'm sure. But if you'd like to pick one up, you can head over to VII.com. They or VIIapparelcompany.com, I believe is actually what it is. They should have it in their shop.
All right, and I do appreciate that, because I think a lot of people have gotten hung up on seeing you wear it and not ever thought about the much deeper meanings, plural, as you just described. And I love the idea, and I've seen other people have picked it up and wear it and support you. And so we very much want to get that plug in there, that if people want to continue to do so, that they can head over there. Johnny V's even got it up on screen here for everybody. There is the shirt, the Natalie Ryan jersey. And you can pick one up as well. So, or pick up 3 right away, or pick up 6 right away, whatever the case might be. Yeah. Isn't it funny?
Would I fit into an XL, or do I need to go 2?
Isn't it funny what,
Shut up, Miller.
like, of all the things, what our disc golf fan base concerns themselves with? Do you ever? I want.
It is a little bit, yeah.
I'll just leave it there. I don't even want you to answer that, because I know the answer. Natalie, we thank you. We thank you for, not only your incredible play, but your honesty, your perspectives, and you being an open book. And then maybe more importantly to everyone else out there, that you provide an inspiration to. I say it all the time, and I'll say it to you again. I can't imagine what you go through on a daily basis. I've been really worked up thinking about scenarios and situations just these last 2 days. And I then reminded myself, that's a millionth of what you deal with. And I'm just a random guy here. And I do wish you the best in that. Just keep being yourself and inspiring so many people. We all know it. We've all got our haters, no matter what you do. But
Terry told me somebody called me Antifa on a board.
Yeah.
That John is your co-host, who's basically Antifa. And I was like, wow, I didn't know.
Yeah. So Natalie, congratulations. Thank you for being the spirit that you are. And we're looking forward to the rest of the season from you. And as always, win, lose, or draw, you're always welcome here on Smashbox. We appreciate you. And have a good night.
Same to you. I really appreciate you guys letting me come on here and having this conversation again. It's been a pleasure. Always will be.
Thank you.
Always.
Hopefully, have a good night.
If we're lucky, it's the last time we have to have it, right?
Yes.
Yeah, we'll see.
All right. Have a good night, Natalie.
Thank you. Good night. All right, guys. Natalie Ryan, congratulations again to her. If I'll just say it, and I
banned a few people tonight. So.
That's fine. I appreciate anyone that can have a civil conversation, and I just wish we had more of them. And we can agree or disagree. I think this applies to so many facets of life. This isn't just about gender, and it can be applied to literally hundreds of other subjects. But I think starting with a little bit of humility and a little bit of civil discourse is always a good place. And when you open up with an unoriginal meme that's been posted 349,000 other times, not only are you just that, you're unoriginal, but it's an impossible way to have a civil conversation at that point. And I get it. Everyone's going to agree or disagree. And I'm right here to listen to, again, civil discourse and have those serious conversations, but let's be humane about it. And that's not just for Natalie. I think that's for everybody. So we appreciate all of you who could find a way to still keep it on the up and up here.
I almost banned Dan Mao because he said that all disc golf in Minnesota is better than Wisconsin.
Yeah, that's a bannable offense as well.
I was so close, dude. So close.
That is definitely. So I'm going to take 2 seconds here. Johnny, you got other? Why don't you hit on some MPO stuff while I give you guys?
Well, real quick,
I get set up with Nate Heinold after you finish off on the FPO stuff.
Yeah, let's talk about FPO real quick. Obviously, Natalie having a great weekend and winning, shooting 18 under par. Owen Scoggins, who, whether she likes it or not, I'm going to mention it, qualifies for FP40, is our FP40 world champion. Takes tied for second with Emily Beach. Emily Beach playing some really good golf, power lefty. Just fun to watch off the tee. Obviously, Owen probably getting it done on the green. I actually haven't even looked at her stats, but out there it feels like she's keeping it inbounds and she's sinking putts from everywhere, is my imagination. Fourth place, a tie between Paige Pierce and Valerie Mondahano. Sixth place was Sarah Hokum, which for a crusher course like this, I feel is a really good finish for Sarah.
Yeah, I mean, I was just gonna say, I'm looking over at her lack of bogeys and sprinkles in a bunch of pars. Yeah, some solid work.
Yeah, she's not usually a fan of these bigger, longer courses, but obviously Sarah shooting very, very well. Macy Veladiaz, another big arm out there. She's and a decent putter as well. It's fun to see her kind of starting to get into her own. Tied with Katrina Allen in 6th, as well as obviously Sarah Hokum. 9th place, Kat Murch. 10th place, Holland Hanley, another crusher. So you can kind of see maybe a small thread of this being favorable to some longer arms. So congratulations to all the women who competed. That's a grueling course. Trust me. It's
for the guy who has never walked it.
I've walked toboggan.
Sorry.
Not that particular.
In 2000, you played a few holes there.
Yeah, I played an entire 2 rounds, 1 round, 2 rounds. I forget.
I think they cut you.
Well, maybe it was only 1 round and I got cut. I don't remember. I didn't bother to look. But yes, that looks like a grueling course.
Yeah, there you go. That's better.
Let's go.
You did not walk 109 holes of it.
No,
like
God, no, I did not.
And to be fair,
and you don't look like you did either.
To be fair, I didn't fully walk 109 holes. Our cameramen did. I took a shortcut. I took a shortcut here and there.
I think the cameramen only like they got to cut out 2 or 3 holes.
That's true. They did the Smashbox Shuffle.
They did the Smashbox Shuffle. So on hole 1 and 2, where you go down and then back up, they would reverse. And so they're basically just getting a vacation practically.
I had 61 holes of golf there in June with the AmNats and 109 holes of golf there this last weekend. I've had enough of the toboggan. We'll see you next year is what I'm trying to say.
I don't think anyone is sad to leave that course. Like it's a great course and people seem to like it, but I think by the end of the weekend, you're not sad to drive away.
I was trying to, it is a valid question. If there's any more consistent elevation and challenge on the tour, and I don't think there is.
Philo had even mentioned that he feels that is one of, if not the most grueling course that the DGPT plays.
I don't know.
Up and down constantly. There's
170 holes there, and I'm still overweight slightly. I don't know.
So you're saying,
all right,
you're saying I should get the 2XL Natalie jersey.
Let's chat on the men's side, then we'll bring in our TD.
We'll go over to MPO real quick. Calvin Heimberg, coming back from Europe and winning it took him an extra hole, but that's Calvin's style lately.
Yep.
1 extra hole. Don't get into a playoff with Calvin is the motto now. Second place, Corey Ellis. Unfortunately, a quarter of an inch that he was out of bounds.
I didn't look at it, but that's what he had said, so I'll believe him.
It honestly almost looked as if, and I did hear that it hit the boards and bounced back.
Yep. But
it almost looked as if when it bounced back, it pushed grass and even maybe moved the line just a hair, enough where it's out. The line is clearly visible on one side.
Okay,
but it was that close. And ultimately Corey not able to get it done in extra holes like Calvin did. So it's second place. Third place is Ricky Wysocki, shooting a 10 down to jump up, just like Gavin Rathbun in fourth place. He shot a 10 down as well. Tied for 4th was Adam Hammis. 6th place, Kyle Klein. Always the bridesmaid. That guy was very, very close again this year. Andrew Marweed, as I said, coming into his style of courses. This is his time of year. Don't sleep on Marweed. I think he's going to you're going to see him finishing up in those top 10 places much more frequently now coming up. Paul McBeth shooting an unstellar final round to drop down to 7th. He was in contention for the first few holes, but then unfortunately just couldn't get anything going. Brody Smith, talk about, as they, I think the Ultra World calls it, horses for courses. Big crusher course, Brody has it, and played very well, putted pretty decent, ultimately was able to get to 9th place. Congratulations, Brody. Simon rounds out the top 10. It appeared that final round, Simon was going for a few more Simon lines.
At a certain point,
when he got about halfway through that course, I kind of felt like I heard someone say, Simon's just throwing now. And it was just, he knew he wasn't winning and he wanted to take some bigger lines. So, that's life. So,
well, I noticed that as well. Hole 15, for instance, very much a Simon line and him getting a little, and that's fine.
Did somebody ask, is that fair? Like
that he can just give up and then start throwing ridiculous lines
into the OB where people have to sit and it slows everything down? Is that?
Yeah, I mean, you
can't penalize somebody for that.
No, he is not, 6 putting on the final hole to then have it get outside of his standard deviation for his rating. He's not doing something nefarious of that line. He's just taking, could you say the same thing when somebody keeps going for a tin cup scenario? Correct. When they could move forward?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nate Heinold here is
in our Disc Baron digital green room.
And I need to read. I missed a letter in his name. Oh wait, did I? Is that how you spell it?
I don't know. Sure.
Yeah, I feel like that looks wrong. But I have to ask the burning question. What was the disc you found? When Paige Pierce yelled, "Terry, find my disc," you went in but came out with a different disc. What was the disc and what did you do with it?
I kept it. No, you... hey, my favorite jack wagons. Thanks for getting me fired up. There's some jack wagons that don't know what they're talking about. I will. But took that clip.
Nate.
Yeah, sorry. They took that clip and then said, "Oh, he doesn't have any integrity. That's just like him." F you, Save Women's Golf, or whatever your ridiculous... Oh, you guys are so disgusting. Anyway, it was a joke. I turned it in. It was an ESP Force with no name on it. So I got hit up earlier today about it. Somebody had asked if it was a different Zeus or a Big Z Zeus. It was an ESP Force with no name, and I jokingly said, "Oh, there's no name. This is going in my collection." To which the commentator said Terry wouldn't bother, which I wouldn't. Of course I wouldn't. I don't care. I don't need another ESP Force. But when you're as bright as some of the other people that we deal with, and they want to snip the clip, and then they want to go out there and say, "Oh, he's got no integrity."
I didn't know what it was, but
you guys talk about integrity. Get a clue.
I'd even said, I'm like, first of all, if it somehow made it to Terry's car, it would probably never come out because it would be there for months. But there's no reason. I said Terry probably just dropped it off the.
And even if I did keep it, technically, it's got no name. And it was left and abandoned on a course. I wouldn't, and I don't need it, but I didn't. But even then, one would argue, well, no name, no number. That seems like a disc you could keep.
And it shouldn't have been, then it should not have been thrown on
in
during
theory,
the tournament.
Yeah.
It probably wasn't there because every disc needs to be marked.
I didn't keep it.
No, all right, let's get Nate.
Fine.
On here before you go off any further.
People are so...
We need to stop him, Nate. We need to stop him. So without any further ado, we're bringing on our board of directors. What's he considered, the president of the board of directors?
I'm not giving him any extra titles.
I don't know.
He runs some tournaments.
He runs two tournaments, and a lot of them have a lot of payout, and he travels, and he's got this big thing. And Nate Heinold, how you doing, buddy?
Hey, buddy.
You're muted, Nate. We don't hear you.
We don't hear you for some reason. This is our best interview ever with Nate.
Everybody's cheering. I don't know why, but
there might be a button or
double
something.
Check your microphone, that it's on the right microphone. I'm just going to do this real quick.
All right. Well, he checks that. Yep. Nate, you're off screen. You're good. See if you can get it figured out.
Yep. Once I start seeing audio, I will.
Or maybe hit refresh, and it might ask you to use to allow your microphone or something of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so yeah, we're gonna have Nate on in just a moment. As we were just alluding to, Nate, a couple weeks ago.
I see some audio coming from Nate.
All right, we'll welcome him back then.
All right, Nate, say something once real quick. Not a lot of audio coming out of that. Not a lot of audio. Go ahead and say it. I'm seeing Natalie didn't have a problem, Nate. I'm just saying. Natalie didn't have a problem.
Come on.
Oh, wait, I heard a click. There you go.
There it is.
You guys, sorry.
Now you're good.
Yeah, power.
I guess you have to plug the thing in all the way. So
all right.
That gets me all the time. I took down the whole DGBT one time like that.
All right. So again, officially welcoming in Nate Heinold. Nate, I was just going to say a couple weeks ago, hosted the Junior and Masters Worlds in the Peoria area. This weekend, you and a sizable staff and crew joined the other staff and crew that was already in Michigan, but you brought more people from Peoria to host the 40th annual Discraft Great Lakes Open, presented by Grip 6. And then in like, a week and a half, it's Ledgestone time? How you doing?
Yeah, wow. I am awake, but I literally fell asleep on my computer last night at 2:30. I finished bells and reviewing the reports for the event, and then we are on to the next one.
I feel like the DGLO event, because of course we're on the Disc Golf Pro Tour side, we're featuring the MPO, the FPO divisions. That's where the spotlight is. That's what we do. But there was also an event with over 800 amateurs being played at 3 or 4 or 5 other courses.
Yeah, I mean it's DGLO will be the third largest event of the year in terms of competitors. The second largest will be Junior Master Worlds, and then the largest will be Ledgestone. So we had 831 amateurs at 5 courses, and so that kind of got lost in the shuffle because toboggan takes a lot of the oxygen. But yeah, we had a lot going on.
Yeah, literally lots of oxygen out there while you're on the hillsides. You took this over this year, right? This was the first time.
Last year.
Kidding. Last year.
Even I did.
Why? Why is a tournament director from Peoria area taking over an Elite Series event in just outside of Detroit, Michigan?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Discraft, that's been their event for now 4 decades, and I work closely with them. But I mean, the bottom line is, I think that our team does a phenomenal job, and I honestly thought we could do an amazing job. And so really, I think I've built kind of this engine that runs events, and I think we have, I would say, a competitive advantage with scale especially, and other things like that allows us to not lose money by running these large events.
And we'll compare and contrast that slightly to most events are hosted by usually 1 or 2 people in charge, and then maybe a large or small army of club members and volunteers. And I feel like you've created a mix of having local but also paid staff, right? And that's kind of been your your recipe for a few years now, hasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I have, I think, 20 people on my payroll now, my direct payroll, and then we use a lot of paid staffers for the events that are not just from Peoria, to be honest. I mean, I've got Ko from Missouri and Jason from Indiana, and I got people from Wisconsin and, Michael from Mississippi. And, I have a lot of people that come from other states. And so I've created a nice little team, and I certainly couldn't do it without them. But I think that is the model. The model of a club running a big event, it's just not possible to do it the right way because it takes so much time, and you can't do it for free.
Yeah, and I guess some would say, as a guy myself who's run 300-ish tournaments throughout the last few decades, the model today is very different from the model from 10 or 15 or 20 years ago. What did you see in the previous models, and then how how did you adapt and push them forward to where you are now?
I think the previous model, you had these clubs or this small circle that cycled in every 2 or 3 years. So, the first big Ledgestone I ran, 2015, let's be honest, it didn't go that well. And so we learned from those mistakes, made it better in 2016, but it still, wasn't great. And so I think by the time those club people cycle out, they've learned everything, and now they're gone and they got burnt out because they were doing it as a volunteer and storing stuff in their garage. And so that model is still employed some places, but it just doesn't work because even if you run a PDGA major one time, you learn so much by doing that, but then you're done, and you may not do it again ever, or you may get so frustrated by complaints or bickering or whatever that you don't want to do it again. But when you run it a second time or a third time, I mean, it really becomes, I wouldn't say easy, but when we ran Master or Junior Worlds here just a few weeks ago, I mean, it was 1,100 players, but I wouldn't say it was easy, but it was a lot easier because of the events we've ran the last 5 years.
And when you're talking about that scale, you're talking about that many people, especially in that case, you're talking about two very different demographics. You're talking about everybody under the age of 19 and then everybody over the age of 40, and just very different everything, right? Naturally, there's going to be not only hiccups, but then there's probably going to be some legitimate concerns or complaints, I'm guessing. Some maybe are more trite or lighter than others, but some are probably very legitimate. What does your list of notes look like, and how do you constantly try and improve on those?
And what do you use to keep these notes on?
Yeah.
Like, is this like in your iPhone notes, or do you have a separate app? I need to know these things.
Yeah. Is this in a spreadsheet database? What do we got?
I mean, if I could share my screen, it'd be fun. But the notes are massive, Johnny and Terry. We basically take feedback and we pull it together, and then I take it one step further and we do a survey. And this year we had 49% of the master and junior players respond. Which is, I mean, off the charts. That's half of the people took 5 or 6 minutes to respond to a survey, and somehow 18% of our members can take 10 seconds to vote. And so anyways, I did do some giveaways. I gave away some discs, but still, I mean, I guess the PDJ needs to up the ante and start, enticing people, but I'm just kidding. But we have a pretty big list of things that we can improve on every year, and we work on those things. When we ran DGLO last year, the big thing that came back to us was, why didn't you paint the circles for the AMs? So we did that this year. Hey, why didn't you have water on every 4th hole for the AMs? Wow, that's a lot, but yeah, okay, we'll do that. And so, and this year at Master Junior Worlds, the biggest complaint, which was didn't the pros get a player pack? And it was like so bad that it was some of the feedback was best event ever, but the worst event ever because we traveled here as a pro and didn't get a player pack. And I thought,
that's
we
different.
put, the added cash was $50,000, but they're saying they're not playing for that reason. They can't cash. They're there for the perspective of a professional, but that's their perspective. And so they're not wrong and I'm not wrong. And so if we ran the event again, we'd try to do a small player pack for them. So
that's interesting feedback. And maybe that's been just a staple of Worlds. Even when Johnny and I played in 10 or 15 Worlds, you did get a player's pack.
I think if I were to go play MP40, I would like a single disc with the event stamp. Like, cool. Just to prove I was there or something like that. Something, because you can always buy them, but as a player's pack, I think it would be kind of nice to have. I can understand that. I don't know if I would complain about it if I didn't get it, but I understand, it's kind of nice to get an event
some
stamp.
Memento of sorts. Yeah. Okay. Unfortunately, it looks like your internet is.
He must be in his.
There you go.
Your internet's a little shoddy there sometimes, Nate.
There you go.
I've dealt with Terry, I think, in that same office, and yeah.
Okay, so
I heard. So just to correct Johnny, I mean, not to correct Johnny, we had the feedback during the event, and then the last evening, we sent the players an email saying, show up to the pro shop and get the swag item that you so desire. So
Nice.
So we tried to take immediate feedback. That's live and learn.
Yeah, exactly. I would be, as a player, I would be like, cool, that's awesome. Thanks for listening. Honestly.
Yeah. So DGLO's in the books. Any quick takeaways from DGLO? I mean, we quickly recap the MPO action just a moment ago. Of course, we just talked to Natalie, but any cliff notes or major takeaways from DGLO?
Yeah, I mean, from the inside, it was just an honor. I mean, that we had so many. You talk about European Open spectators, but I would say that Sunday was probably the largest U.S. audience that's ever witnessed disc golf in person ever. I would say it rivals the 2014 Pro Worlds and even 2015 Ledgestone, when we that was the first time that got big, and we had $65,000 of added cash when the biggest yet had been 10 to 15, and people were so curious what this Lake Eureka was about. I mean, we had about 2,500 that day, but I think yesterday, I think Sunday we had about 2,700 paying spectators, and then we had kids, and that for me was the biggest takeaway was disc golf is here to stay, and in fact, it is growing.
Yeah, and the toboggan has become now this icon and is historic. And I guess is there anything that you learned when looking at the 3 new holes that were put into play, and just the overall feedback on the event? How you guys added cement tee pads out there a couple of years ago. Will that continue to evolve, that course, in any way, or is it kind of set now? Is it gonna play like that for a couple of years?
I mean, Bob already has asked me twice for the stats. I ran the regression analysis tonight, actually, and so we have 4 or 5 things we'll look at for next year, with some holes that maybe either played with too little scoring separation, or maybe played too easy or too hard. I don't think the course needs to be any longer, personally, but I do think that we may need some more scoring separation on a few holes that played maybe with too many pars. So that's what we'll focus on most, is how can we make sure there's scoring separation.
I love that, and it's funny because I read a comment today condemning you, particularly Nate, saying Nate Heinold just can't leave a course alone. Every year it's got to be something different, and we get a new course record because the course is different. And all I keep thinking is, yeah, they keep tweaking it to try to make it better. Like, Isn't that what we want? Don't we want the best course? So I did get a kick out of that, which is funny because I just heard your interview, I think, on Ultra World, saying more or less that like the Eureka course is set. That's what it is. It's not changing, but Northwood maybe adjusts.
Yeah, we haven't changed Eureka in like 5 years, and maybe I moved to pin back on 14 like 3 years ago, and then Northwood, we just cleaned up the rough and then made 2 par 5s probably a half stroke easier, but.
Bring back the volleyball hole. Bring back the volleyball court hole, please.
Jeez. Don't go there. I have nightmares.
Pre-COVID, people don't understand that, but us.
Yeah, this is why I leave him at home, Nate. So let's speak then a little bit before we get into Ledgestone. Let's get into Ledgestone. Ledgestone, essentially a week away. Really less than that if you start thinking about the extracurriculars. Of course, we have the Mid-America taking place on the Silver Series this weekend. A ton of our players have already found themselves over there. They're competing. And then they come to Ledgestone. You anticipate people arriving to town Saturday, Sunday, Monday? What do you anticipate? And talk about some of the numbers from both pros and AMs.
Yeah, I mean, we already have pros here. I mean, I've already had Brittany and Chris Dickerson bothering me in my office today, so with their dog. So if you're listening, Brittany, but no, I mean, we already have people here. We have people from other countries already here. I mean, we have the activities starting Saturday. I left DGLO 40 minutes after Calvin putted out and drove straight home, and made a wrong turn after I talked to you, Terry, drove towards you on accident for a half hour, so got home about 2:00. But I had staff arrive yesterday for Ledgestone, and they needed direction. And so my main core staff got back late, last night. And then we have our biggest drop of the year on Thursday, actually, as well, with 40,000 discs dropping.
On my birthday? Oh, that's so sweet. I can't wait to get that coupon code.
Oh, I thought you were going to get
a $500 gift certificate.
Wait, show that
for my
again
birthday.
Once. Show that again once.
Well, that was the Paige Pierce one. This is the Paul Macbeth one. So those are gorgeous. So
I'm sure Terry has told you we are not above being bought. So if some of those happen to fall into the studio, I wouldn't complain.
Mm-hmm.
No, Terry has made very clear that for the right price, this can be the Ledgestone propaganda show. So
oh yes, that price is small.
You've already made a down payment. That's been very clear to our guest here. So tons of drops, tons of things, flex starts, ice cream socials, other charitable things going on. Kind of give a quick overview. And do you have an app yet? Come on, do we have an app for all this stuff yet?
Wow, yes, I do. It's called the Ledgestone app, so you can go to the App Store and download Ledgestone, but you have to get the password. So from us, because you have to be a member, a player, one of the 2,200 players, by the way, or one of the 600 VIPs. But we have 11 Flex C tiers, 2 ice cream events, 2 food events, which is complicated for 2,000 people. We have dunk tanks and glow events and charitable contributions to St. Jude and the Paul Macbeth Foundation, all kinds of stuff. So really, I mean, it's really an experience. It's not just an event. We obviously have the pros competing for $150,000 purse, but we also have a lot of activities going on. It's a huge economic engine to the community, to be honest. So hotels have been booked for months. There's not an Airbnb available for 30 miles, so it really is overwhelming, to say the least. I mean, I really don't sleep for 12 days, and that's how it goes.
Yeah, it's become quite the monster. I mean, if we're really just putting it out there, and of course there's some draws and similarities that we find with some of our other really large scale events. Of course, you just hosted DGLO, which featured some of those things. Some who maybe haven't been there would liken it to what they've heard or experienced at a dynamic disc open with, lots of C tiers and flex starts, extracurriculars galore. And like you just said, disc dyeing classes and vending opportunities. It's it's the largest scale event of the year. Is there anything else you can compare it to in terms of energy and effort? I mean, even outside of disc golf, I don't know what that would be, but is it like the equivalent of a marathon? I guess maybe is what I would say.
I mean, I would say it's the equivalent of a large music festival that just can, that has the main event, right? That's the pros playing, and then it has all of these little side stages where you can, go get your disc dyed, or you can dunk Jeremy Culling in a dunk tank, or get a signing from Paul Macbeth and wait an hour, or wait in line for 8 hours, or Ben Askren's going to be there and you can ask him to punch you in the face, or whatever, right? So I'm just kidding. So but,
that's a new feature.
I bet you if you asked him, do you think you could sell tickets to knee him in the head?
I don't think so.
Wow.
Ouch.
Jeez.
I won't see him for like another year, so I'm cool. He'll
I think you're uninvited. Yeah, it's clearly this incredible task. And then maybe the last question on is, when it's all said and done, and we talked about the model a little bit, what do your staff and volunteer numbers look like when just to give somebody else a scope of what we're talking about?
82 staff members, I think, and then 225 volunteers, and then thousands of hours throughout the year on coursework. Like right now, it rained 2.5 inches today. Our courses were looking pretty good. Not the right time to have 2.5 inches of rain, because it grows up all of that stuff I don't want to have grow up. So, but we'll be out there with our heavy machinery, getting stuff ready the rest of the week. And, that's part of the task. But I mean, it's really a full-time job, to be honest. I work full-time in disc golf is the bottom line.
Yeah, I would think, and I mean, I'm just throwing out ideas. That's what I am, and I'm an idea man. I don't do a lot, but I don't know. Some inflatable rafts might be in the player packs. Some people could just do some floating down the rivers or hanging out in your fairways that are all. It sounds like there's gonna be plenty of water and rain out there. Ooh. Are we selling? That's what I'm doing. I'm selling spots for spectating out at Lake Eureka. I have another actual bright idea that I'll share with you offline about DGLO. But anyway, all right. So enough about you and the hard work you do. It genuinely is appreciated, and I know our pro players have this week-long extravaganza to look to. Our amateur players do as well, along with the vending and everything else. You wear another hat in terms of being on the board of directors, and as it's been beat into largely our member base over this last month, is voting has taken place up until 11:59 Eastern Time Sunday night, and about 30 hours ago, we saw the election results. Talk to us about, truly from an inside perspective, talk to us about that process in terms of, a third party, who they're reporting to, who looks at it, who assembles what, who shares it with the world. Kind of just break down that process.
Yeah, I mean, the PDGA uses a third party company. None of the board or, has access to the data whatsoever. None of the staff have access to the data. I won't say the name of the company, but I mean, it is a third party election company. I won't.
I'm just saying, there was internet voting, and I just had to ask if they were involved.
You almost killed
me. Or Chavez. I don't know. Anyway, okay, go on.
Wow.
Maybe not. Maybe you guys use someone else this year. I don't know where you buy your pillows. Okay, go on.
Wow, yeah. Not, yeah. Wow, I don't even know where to go.
That's all on me, folks.
Terry, sometimes I feel like I derailed the conversation. Terry just threw that one off the tracks. Let's start.
All right, reset.
Start over. We'll
okay, how does that happen?
The companies don't get their pillows made in Giza. I think, right, the Giza pillows. So anyway, we pay a company, outside company. The results come in and they get validated, and right now, anybody can run for the board. So the current process doesn't even require you to be a member for more than one day. I mean, you can run for the board and put your resume in, and it's members' choice. So, my response to the results was disappointing at the turnout. As I said, I sent out a survey that was 20 questions long for the world's competitors, and we had 49% response rate. So to only see 18% of our members vote after 4 or 5 emails is honestly shocking for, the last few days I've averaged 50 emails a day on a various topic, and so for our members to be outspoken about certain things and then not vote, just honestly just makes me frustrated, but that is what it is.
Yeah. And I know I danced around this last week a little bit, and I do feel like it's a valid question, and I feel like there's some comparison that needs to be had. I wonder who we all but eliminate in terms of an expectation from our voting. And last week I know we said, our junior player base is 6,700 deep, and I'm not suggesting a 17-year-old can't read and make an informed voting decision, but conversely, the 4-year-old that's never played in a tournament but got signed up for the PDGA and renewed from their parent, I don't expect a 4-year-old to necessarily be casting a vote either. And then you think about tournament directors, husbands or wives that, are just really a member because they host an event. And then you think about, somebody said it perfectly today, they're like, hey, if your ratings keep coming out and nothing's going crazy, maybe the membership just says, everything's fine. I don't really care who's running the ship. It'll just keep running. And there's some people that for that reason dismiss voting. I mean, I would love to see a greater turnout as well.
But like,
I don't know what what a good number looks like.
I don't know what a good number looks like, but I think a lot of people join the PDGA because they like to play tournaments and they don't want to pay the $10. And
they may not care about any leadership.
They don't care about
roles.
the leadership because honestly, to them, it barely affects them. They're going to play their local events. And they're going to play their local tour 5, 6, 8, 10 times a year, and they don't need to worry about that because things will just happen. Maybe they don't care about the pro game. Maybe they don't care about, in general, the little bitty rule changes that happen. They look at it and they go, oh, okay.
Yeah.
I think that's, I think that's 75% of our members. They could care less. I mean, so Johnny, you hit it on the head. Our research shows that our members care about one thing, and that's playing sanctioned competition and getting a rating, and that's about it. So,
which is
like
fine.
You and I, which is great. So,
I guess again, I have a personal bias here in that I have daughters that are 11 and 13. They probably won't play a sanctioned event this year. And I just sign them up every year because I like the idea of them, or me, in this case, supporting the PDGA, and they won't play a single event. And so I'm not necessarily expecting them to cast a well-informed vote because they just simply, they don't know and don't care. So that's why I sell their votes every year. So next year, I'm just kidding. No, so clearly a conversation that was, I hate to call it a single issue voting, scenario this year, but a very, very, very topical conversation is our transgender athletes that are competing right now. Of course, we just had a very open conversation with Natalie a few moments ago, who fits into that category. And we also saw today both releases from the Disc Golf Pro Tour and from the PDGA. I read the emails, but can you summarize or explain what we saw in those emails today?
I mean, the bottom line is, for a period of time, the IOC had said, hey, we're going to release guidance on this issue. We're going to release guidance. And that came this last February, and they essentially punted the decision, kind of shockingly, and said, our hands are clean. We're not doing anything about this. It's up to the various sporting organizations. So organizations like the PDGA had been kind of waiting to say, we're going to follow IOC policy, which we've been doing. We've followed, I voted for the current policy that we have in place back in 2018-19 that follows IOC policy. So that was kind of a shocker for them to say, we don't have an opinion. So good luck, basically. And so that's my assessment of it. And so we very quickly set up a medical subcommittee that's looking very hard at this issue. And I hope to have their report. And I know they're working hard at it, but I hope to have that report in the next, this year. I would say, I hope it's sooner than that, but so we can give our members some clarity on where we're going to be going for the 2023 season. And that may be nothing. There may be no change. There may be anywhere in between. So I've seen people say a lot of things.
So, and just to be clear or clarify for everyone out there, a few months ago, the PDGA essentially, as you're just alluding to, came out and said, hey, we no longer have specific guidance from the IOC. We've been using them. We're now going to create our own subcommittee that's going to pull in a number of people, a lot of professionals, researchers, doctors, all these different people. We're going to pull them in, research it, heavily look at it, and then submit a report and the findings back to the board level. So this is a subcommittee that's going to then submit back to the board level. And essentially what they did today is, in my opinion, is they said, hey guys, just so you know, we're doing all that stuff and we're still doing it. And so just hang tight. Nothing's going to change before 2023, no matter what we do or don't find. Nothing's going to change, but we hope to have a report to come back to you with. Is that another way to word everything you just said?
Yeah, I think the reason for reiterating that stance is honestly, we could say it once a month and people would still say, what is the PDJ doing about XYZ issue, right?
Yeah.
So that's the reason for reiterating that, because yes, we're looking at it The committee has very qualified professionals. Every single member outside of one on that committee has an MD in the field that matters here. And then we have one more MD who doesn't, but is considered an expert in the sport of disc golf. So we have people who are very knowledgeable looking at this very closely. And, ultimately at the end of the day, it's the board's decision. And so the committee is obviously advisory, but the board obviously will take whatever they say into, obviously that will be very important.
Well, and I think that becomes another interesting point, and maybe why the Board of Elections results and or just the board in general is so crucial, because then I guess I would ask you, we just talked about assembling this very, very qualified, very insightful, research, brilliant group. Is it fair to say that whatever they come up with as a recommendation, that feels like it should be all but a rubber stamp for the board to just follow that recommendation, right? That's the whole point of a subcommittee, or not necessarily?
Yeah, I mean, obviously everybody has personal biases. I mean, I can tell you now that no matter what the committee says, there's probably a board member that would vote this way. And no matter what the committee says, there's going to be a specific board member who I know would vote in the we're keeping things status quo, obviously. And so,
sure.
I am somebody who is very interested in not just the scientific data, but I'm honestly as interested in hearing from specifically the FPO competitors. So, if we have scientific data that maybe is, which in my opinion, we're not going to get a definitive answer because there's not enough data. We don't have enough competitors that were able to study over a period of years to even determine this, in my opinion. So I'm sure the committee can still give us something, hopefully, but I'm more interested in hearing as well, what do our competitors think? If it's something where it's 50-50, then I think that would be tough to probably, look at. But I think I'm very interested to hear what our competitors have to say about this.
And
I think division, not the male competitors. So
I think it's interesting because a lot of people are speaking like that, saying, I really want to know what the FPO field feels. And I agree that is important. But I also feel like this is a decision that will affect the entire sport of disc golf. Like, we saw what it did with swimming, national news. This, depending on which way we go, and I don't obviously have an idea, it could affect sponsorship. You could look at someone like we'll just throw out the guarantee mortgage, guarantee rate, whoever the big sponsor was last year for the Pro Tour finale. If they look at whatever the decision is and they don't agree with it, they could pull their money. It's like, cool, thanks, we're not interested now. If this is a decision that not only affects the FPO, because if you look at the FPO and you weigh it like this, you say, hey, if you vote this way, we get X amount of much money. If you vote this way, we are only going to get this amount of money. And we don't know what that is. There's no way to know that in the future because until the decision is made, we can't say. But I think this is bigger than just the FPO field, but it involves the entire sport.
And that's a relevant point, but we don't want to get to the situation where we don't listen to our players and then live golf. And then live golf happens, right? And we don't listen to the FPO players if they even feel the way that some people feel they feel. Then live golf happens, and some group comes in, and all of a sudden the PGA Tour is now fractured by this outside organization. And so because maybe they didn't listen to their players and they weren't paying them enough or whatever it is. And in this case, that's why I want to hear from the players because, if it's split or whatever it is, I think that's very relevant, but I still would love to see as much scientific data as there is, available to us.
I completely agree.
Yeah, and clearly Johnny nor I, who hold no official positions in any capacity, nor have any influence, have to sit back and at this point react to what is presented and unfolded in the decisions that are made. But I think one of the biggest takeaways for me, and I reiterated this with Natalie, and I just think in general, is I personally, and I know I'm going to get hate for it, I personally do not believe the entire subject is as black and white as so many think that it is. And you can take that however you want, but to me, there is a lot of gray in a lot of the area. And I feel like even maybe Natalie would agree with that. And I don't want to speak for her, but I just, in general, to me, it's not black and white like so many claim. And it's very sensitive and it's new. I mean, let's be real here for all of us. There's a lot of sports that are making a lot of different semi-similar or semi-different decisions about how they're moving forward. And obviously swimming is the most recent, but there's a lot of other sports that are continuing to look at their policies. And where do we fall in line and where does our research go? I don't know. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I would say it's disingenuous for anybody in disc golf, Natalie or somebody on the other side that would say she has a major advantage. It's disingenuous for them to say it with confidence that there is or isn't an advantage. I would tell both of them, you're wrong. We don't have any definitive scientific study, even swimming, when they came out and made this decision that you have to transition by.
I think you're saying by puberty.
Yeah, I think, you hung up on us for a second, Nate. Hopefully you come back here.
Yeah, it's going to glitch out here for a second. I like to kind of do this.
All right, Nate, sorry. You were saying that if they transition by...
Yeah, I said, swimming, when they changed their policy and you had to transition, I think by the age of 12, they said there was some data behind that and that drove their decision making, but they didn't release that data. I mean, as the PDGA, we would love to see the data that they're using, and I mean, they're not releasing it, and other organizations are keeping it tight to the chest, which means, whatever that means. So
yeah, well,
correct.
I was going to say I don't envy any of it, but it's clearly something that we're all working through as both a Frisbee family, but also as competitors, but also hopefully as compassionate humans and understanding that these are all newer territories that we're wading through as a relatively young sport. I mean, you think about so many other sports that are out there, and then you think about disc golf's only 45 years old. And having these conversations have really only been brought into the spotlight in the last few years. It's all very heavy and very delicate to work through. That's for sure.
Yeah, and I would say one more thing that I think is very relevant. The people that want to limit participation for transgender athletes in the FPO division, some of the vile things they say not only are vile, but it hurts their credibility immensely and honestly makes it less likely that you would see, any sympathy towards them, and it could influence the decision the other way. And so seeing hateful comments honestly makes people say, man, you know what? I mean, I want to have sympathy and empathy no matter if I feel this way or that way. And so seeing some of the vile emails that I get, which are, Nate Heinold, you're disgusting because you allow blah, 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 blah to compete. And it's like, wow. I mean, that's like, to me, I don't understand that at all. That's not going to help it. If they want to make change, that's not going to help their position. So,
I mean, it comes to me, that continues to go back to my other large talking point was, let's discuss policy. Let's have adult conversations. Let's look at researchers. Let's look at, professionals that are dealing this. And then let's have conversations that surround policy. Let's not bully the person or the people that are currently following the rules. That's my take on it. And will get blasted as well. And that's fine. But that's my takeaway.
And that's a good take at the same time with what I just said, that we should be, Natalie is following the rules. So is any transgender. They're following the rules that have been set out by the governing body of the sport. And the people attacking her, in those ways, they're 100% wrong. At the same time, it is not automatically transphobic or wrong for someone to say that this person may have a competitive advantage. To me, that is not wrong to have that debate. I think both sides need to come off of these positions of, if you say that somebody could have an advantage, that does not mean you're transphobic. On the same side, saying vile things is disgusting, and that is not going to help your case at all. In fact, it means that you should be deleted off of the chat, as Johnny's been doing.
Well, I mean, it's
we're
not here.
All the mods tonight have been helping
and we're
out
not,
quite a bit.
And I guess to that point, I think that's, maybe you could speak to it, or maybe we could blather on about it, but we've seen this earlier. The Disc Golf Pro Tour specifically, and I believe the PDGA followed a very similar protocol of when things are posted to social media accounts, including sometimes YouTube or Facebook or wherever, you can have conversations, but not in an antagonizing and in a bullying fashion. And we know, as per even a few people on our chat tonight, that they don't make a distinction, and you just want to throw out free speech, and that with free speech you think you can say whatever you want. Unfortunately, that's just not the case, and someone who's hosting on that platform, whether it's the PDGA or the Pro Tour, does not have to put up with you being a bully. And I think just people can't wrap their head around that. And
I hope all those people that are yelling free speech, I hope they let their 8 and 10-year-old kids talk to them any way they want.
Yeah, free speech,
free speech, Mom. Yeah, I tell you what, I'd have 4 knuckles across my cheek if that happened.
At any rate, so clearly big moments, and as you have no idea at this point, and even if you did, I know you couldn't share it, but right now the subcommittee is working on it. They're going to report back, and then we go from there. That's where we're at. So if you're at home right now calling for an immediate change tomorrow or next week, it's not happening. And if you're saying, well, in a month things are going to be different and we're going to go retroactively take away a title from Natalie Ryan, that's not happening. They've made it very clear from months ago that things are being looked at now, and at earliest 2023 is when we would see any change. And I just can't state that more clearly to everybody. So
yeah, and I would say my goal will be to be as transparent as possible. If there is a change or if there's not a change, I will want to try to give as much information as we can and why that decision was made. I'm sure that the lawyers may tell me otherwise, but I would love for our members to be able to know, because this is going to be, if it comes to the vote and we have to make a decision, it's going to be, I mean, it's not going to be fun. No one, I mean, I don't want to have to be in that position to look at the data and potentially, go one way or the other. But that's the job. And so I will want to try to get as much out there as we can. But yes, the timeline you stated is correct. And I obviously hope that we have, information sooner than later, but I also don't want the committee to rush the job. So,
well, as I've said before, I'll let those professionals do their job, do their work, and I'll be excited to see what the findings are when they come back with them, because I'm not about to interject anything where I'm going to actually be useful or insightful to them.
The only, I don't say problem is the wrong word. The only issue that I see happening is if the PDGA addresses it and we don't see it and we don't see a change, we're never going to hear the end of it. That's just the way it's going to be, because as long as it happens, it's not going to matter to some people, which is unfortunate. And we'll be able to point at the rules for the rest of our lives, just like we do this year. And I think that you're still going to get people that are going to scream, PDGA needs to change the rules, even after they make a decision.
Yeah. No,
so,
yeah. I mean,
and that's fine. I'm still mad at the PDGA for changing the master's age from 35 to 40.
Yeah.
And that was done in
15 years, 18 years ago, 20 years ago.
20 years ago.
Nate, I think because you are here, this is and we are, largely talking policy. A lot of people will naturally go to, a conversation that we had just a week or two ago with one of our elite level players getting disqualified. And I don't want to go to that specifically at all. What I want to go to, though, is the policy surrounding how that gets dealt with on a very generic level. I'm not even concerned about him. I'm concerned about what does the disciplinary policy and procedure look like. I think this is a great opportunity for us to share with the world because, again, a lot of people have it twisted as to what they think should happen. How does the entire process unfold?
Yeah. Who are you talking about? So I'm going to pull a Terry there. So I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
So
see if I'm on the list. I should be suspended probably.
You stole a disc, I heard.
Yes. Yeah, I was stealing discs from the. I was stealing discs on hole 3 this weekend. That's what I was doing, right?
Yeah. Don't you know that was my ESP force in the woods? No.
So
probably.
Nate, we need to talk about this because Terry was giving an unfair competitive advantage to Paige Pierce by helping her try to find her disc. Not every group gets that.
Not every group has a tear bear running around in the woods.
I'm just saying that we need to address this very soon before this gets out of hand.
Yes, suspend me.
Yeah.
So
don't make me walk that course again. Just suspend me.
With the Smashbox disciplinary committee.
All right, let's talk about the process though.
To answer your question, a TD or an official at a tournament has the ability to, or somebody affected by that incident has the ability to turn in a discipline complaint, which goes to a volunteer committee that answers to the PDGA board and subsequently the PDGA board president. So the staff is not really involved. The committee looks at it. The chair of the committee is unknown to the public. It's listed on the PDGA site. We keep the rest of the members of that committee private for security reasons, to be honest. Just if there's a suspension and we don't want members to be attacked online or in person, I suppose. But they look at it. They will immediately do a very short investigation of the report. And if they find it credible, they will vote to then look at the case or not look at the case. And so that's the process to even start the process. And then once they've agreed to look at the case, they will pull together the evidence with statements, potential video evidence, if it's available, which is rare, to be honest, but statements from the accused, of any witnesses. The chair pulls all that together, sends it to the committee. They review that based on guidelines that we have posted, Class A suspensions, Class B, etc. Everything is in there from intimidation of an official to cheating to requesting a refund that you weren't entitled to and not giving the money back to the TD, which we've seen a bunch of those cases. They make their decision, and then it comes to the board president to confirm that they made the correct decision. That then the member then gets a letter that says they've been put on probation or suspended. And if they don't get suspended, then nothing comes of it. That member then has the right, I think 30 days to appeal. If they appeal, it then goes to a few members of the board who review the case more in depth. So the board president really just confirms the decision that they followed the guidelines, though the board president could determine that the punishment was too severe or not severe enough and make up his or her own decision. But the appeal then, could be for any reason. The committee also could look at mitigating factors. Did the person apologize immediately? Did they show remorse? Those kind of things.
Okay. So just to be clear for the world, this is the policy. This is the procedure for any scenario. This is how things get played out. And I think there's a lot of people that feel as if there's you pick and choose in which this procedure unfolds, and you don't. This is how it always goes, in taking the steps that you just described. And so I think that's worth sharing. And of course, we've had a high profile player that may or may not be involved in that in some capacity. But I do think it's important because there's a lot of people wondering, how does the process work and what will happen from here? And that's exactly where we're at. So.
And the process sometimes takes 2 to 4 weeks.
Sure.
And so just sometimes people don't respond. And we give them 72 hours to respond. If they choose not to respond, that it is used in their case, obviously. So if they choose not to, give information, that's relevant. So,
and this is kind of a funny side note that, first of all, everyone that's on any form of probation or suspension is currently listed on a disciplinary chart that is accessible by anyone. It's out there on the PDGA website. It doesn't take much to find it. I came across it just the other day, and maybe this is of note, Nate. What's the number one reason that people are suspended or put on probation?
Cheating, unfortunately. So, and it's very easy to track nowadays because we have scoring apps and we can see if people are changing scores, and maybe you changed it once and you had a reason, and that makes sense. But if your group says you're cheating and they have a scorecard to prove it, and we can see in the scoring app that you changed your score 4 different times, but nobody else's score got changed, we're going to present that data to you, and you can choose to deny it. But you are not innocent until proven guilty. That is not the law doctrine that we have to follow. So, and so if there's enough evidence, and it's overwhelming enough, you are not automatically innocent in terms of discipline. This is not a court of law, and so
or private organization.
If they're very confident that you did this, they don't have to prove their case, beyond a reasonable doubt. So,
I thought what you were going to say, honestly, is that, and maybe it's because it's lessened throughout the years. It felt as if for many years the number one reason people were suspended was a person runs a tournament and then fails to submit either the tournament results and or the money that's associated with running the tournament. It's not uncommon for somebody to host a B tier or a C tier, and at the end of the tournament, not only do they have to, they used to have to do a lot more work, but they'd have to submit a few things to make the tournament official, and then send in anywhere from $200 to $500, depending on what they collected. And we just found a lot of tournament directors, didn't budget correctly, or got tripped up at some point, or took that money to other nefarious places. I don't know. And next thing you know, you're given some grace period, but if you don't get it submitted, same thing. You ultimately go through this process of getting suspended. And it's an easy fix usually, but right?
Yeah.
So that's not the most common anymore?
Those cases don't even come to the committee anymore. There's too many of them from what I remember. And so those are handled by the office, just because if you don't pay your fees, we give you time, and then you are suspended until you pay them. So that's an automatic thing that the office handles now. That would be way too much work because that's a cut and dry thing. Hey, you owe $1,000. You haven't paid the fees. That doesn't need to go for review. That is a black and white situation. So
sure.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So as you said, there's not a whole lot of subjectivity to that matter. It's, hey, you took too long. You still didn't pay. You got an extra chance or two. You still didn't pay. All right, now we're just suspending you. Yeah, and I do feel like that was very much unfortunately, is pretty common.
Somebody asks...
And the other most...
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I said the other most common one is the whole, wow, I withdrew from this tournament 2 days before, and that TE decided to give me 50% of my money. Click, I'm going to do a PayPal dispute, and I'm going to get my money back. And guess what? That is actually a suspendable offense. So until you reimburse the TD, because if they choose to follow the PDGA refund policy, which they are entitled to, and I encourage them to do, which I just saw Terra Bear post about a whole sponsorship issue, which I do the same thing. So, if you sponsor a hole and you want to back out, we've already printed your sign, you're going to get that sponsorship. So, but that is the other most common thing, is people who try to pull that stunt, basically.
Okay. Yeah. And if there's a way to circumvent the rules, unfortunately, somebody will. But the problem is with technology, timestamps, computers, and everything else that we've kind of referenced.
Yeah.
You can't be quite as sneaky or slimy today as you could 5 or 10 or 20 years ago.
With the newfound cash coming into disc golf, has the PDGA looked at monetary fines for issues that we see on the course? Implementing any sort of, that's $1,000 fine if you're caught cheating or something along those lines. Has there been any discussion about that?
We have not discussed that at this point in time. So no,
and I know it'd be very difficult.
I think that would only make sense at the pro tour level, to be honest. So, and that'd be more of maybe a pro tour specific policy, a DGPT specific policy, but
sure.
That's totally just, I've never heard of even the Pro Tour considering that, but that's not on the PDJ's radar at this moment. So,
okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Only because I posted about it this weekend. Who has the conversation about the 30-second time violation? And this has nothing to do with Europe or any other player. This is a very, very generic conversation because I have often been frustrated, and what's becoming more popular, I feel like, is competitors are often exceeding 30 seconds because they're using a rangefinder or some aid of that nature. They're not really taking into consideration by the time they've grabbed their rangefinder, got their distance, put their rangefinder away, got their disc set up, gone through their routine, they're at 1 minute and 10 seconds or 1 minute and 20 or 2:10 or 55 seconds, whatever the number is. They're not doing it within 30 seconds. I love rangefinders. I'm not opposed to them. And even if I was, they're not going away because we'd find other GPS mechanisms probably. Is there any conversation about that? And if so, who has that conversation?
Yeah, I mean, the bottom line is that using a rangefinder does not give you extra time. So I gave 2 players this week at DGLO time violations. So I have no problem putting a watch on somebody. If they're using a rangefinder, I love Bushnell and what they've done in the sport, and they're great for the sport of disc golf, but using a rangefinder does not extend your 30-second window. You have to, that time of getting your distance is part of your 30 seconds. And so I have no problem making a call with that because I can't stand slow play. I don't like 5-hour rounds. And so I get up and I chuck. As a player myself, that's what I do. I don't expect every player to not take that much focus, obviously, but I do expect them to follow the rules. And so that is a policy that would, we have a rule book and we have a competition manual, and those kind of discussions would be had within the rule committee and the competition committee.
Okay. And I'm, again, that was a generic comment. It's becoming more common, and I'm not equating that to the person that's in the nastiest of rough, off the fairway, and for the first time in the entire round, they arguably took 34 seconds. That is not what I do. I do not equate that to the person that, as I described, uses a rangefinder in a wide open field. They do it every hole, every other shot, and everything is taking 1 minute and 9 seconds. To me, those are not the same conversation pieces, but nonetheless.
Hey! I don't only design courses that take 5 hours. I see that comment. So,
I know. I was going to say you don't like that, and now we're playing Northwoods. That's like
Northwood Black and Ledgestone, or not Ledgestone,
Eureka.
but DGLO and Eureka.
Yeah, let's just take Eureka. 8.5 hours at Northwood Black. They love that. We all love that.
It hurts.
Getting killed out here, folks.
DGLO, the last round for MPO was 3 hours and 10 minutes. Last year, MPO Eureka was 2 hours and 57 minutes. We won't go into the Northwood round time, but they are going to be better this year. So just mark my words.
No,
Well,
I
yeah,
we joke
the
about
last
it.
round at Eureka was canceled. Yeah, I don't think you can add that into your averages. That one took 0 minutes.
The last round that we played in full. Terry, hey, I know you're gonna be here soon. I know what makes you tick. So just calm down. Calm down.
All right, we'll see about that. Nate, do you have anything else to share with the world? And really, I mean, I leave that as very open ended. It could be Ledgestone, it could be PDGA, it could be insurance, it could be your sister's great cooking and baking. I don't care. You got anything to share?
What's insurance? I'm not sure. Do I still?
I don't know. Do you still sell that? Give us the 10-second insurance plug here. I mean, we're here for it.
No insurance. There's no insurance plug to give. The plug I will give though is that we are trying to raise a lot of money for charity this year again. Okay. And we have our largest drop of the year on Thursday night. You can go to our Instagram, click our link in our bio to get to the St. Jude website where you can donate to St. Jude to get the chance to make a purchase early in that drop. But we clear Malta, but we have wonderful discs that we're dropping. We have 30 different molds and Yuli molds, Macbeth, Paige molds, all of the above, Zuka carts, rangefinders. So the purpose of that drop is to raise over $100,000 for St. Jude and the Paul Macbeth Foundation, and to support the efforts to continue to push the Ledgestone added cash and to the next .com is where you can show up to work next week and I'll hook you up.
All right. I like it. We'll make sure everyone gets out there. Again, yeah, you have, what's the total number in terms of charitable contributions in the last 6 or 8 years combined? St. Jude, Paul Macbeth Foundation, and others. You play. What are the totals?
I'm gonna look it up, but it's $382,000.
$382,000 has been collected and then dispersed to various charities. Largely being St. Jude has been your biggest recipient over throughout the years over there. St. Jude Children's Hospital. So it's so awesome to see those additional ties and community outreach locally and with what Macbeth does and worldwide. It is truly incredible. We cut out on him.
Yeah,
I'm guessing his mother chimed in. Nate Sweetie Pie has to go night here pretty soon. But all right,
we'll cut that. Thanks a lot, Nate. He might he might hop back in, but we're just gonna kind of call it for now. Much appreciated for all the input that Nate has given us in regards to TDing and PDGA policy. Basically anything you want to know, Nate has information on it.
Yeah. So make sure you check it out.
I think you can go right to the Ledgestone website. Is that right?
I believe. Let me double check on my connection. Yeah. If you go to shopledgestone.com, it says the drop, August 4th.
The drop.
Okay. I'm pretty sure. I'm going to put the link in the YouTube chat there, but it is the drop on August 4th. Sounds like where I was last week in Illinois.
You were at the drop?
Six Flags Great America, but that's another story. All right. I think that's good on Nate's end. So Nate, we do appreciate it. Sorry, it sounds like you ran out of internets at Ledgestone over there, but certainly looking forward to it. And I'm going to have a unique role. I'll personally just say next week I am not scheduled to be part of the Disc Golf Pro Tour media team.
Thank goodness.
I will be out of your hair, Johnny. Whew. and I will be helping Nate and the event crew. I've had a long history. Well before he was on the Disc Golf Pro Tour, I was doing work with Nate and this event very back in the very, very early days of this event, as it spans more than 10 years. And so excited to be part of helping out. Last year, I even had a goofy role in that I was there for a couple days, did a few things, and then I had to leave for my half-sister's wedding, so I wasn't even there for the conclusion. But according to Calvin and Ricky, I didn't miss much on that final round. So
no, cold.
Yeesh. All right, so we'll have a definitive winner hopefully this year. All right, I think that's it for actual real business, as far as I can tell.
We got all the real business done, didn't we?
We certainly did. I think we got plenty of information out there. I also will have lots more to talk about. We'll chit-chat here in the after show. But I think in terms of the regular show, unless you have anything wild or crazy that we have to touch on, Johnny, you don't.
I don't.
Okay, either do I. We're going to call it. We're going to head into the after show. If you've been here before, I'm sorry. And if you're new here, well, when we head into the after show, we usually largely separate ourselves from the slightly more serious content that you find in the regular show. We could still get into some other topics. We read things off the message board. We always read the things off the super chat even faster if you're looking to put it in there in the message board. And some of our topics will be both disc golf and non-disc golf related. If you have something for us, put it into the chat and we can react accordingly. Or we might ignore it if it's ignorable.
YouTube chat, preferably.
Yes,
we do see the other chats, but
place.
you will not get to interact with other people because they will not see you.
And there were at least postings of a lot of people saying that they had a tie or a vested interest in this evening's show, and a lot of them saying even from an international perspective. And some people had said they set alarms so that they could partake in watching and listening to the conversations tonight. And if
Good.
you did that, bless you. Hopefully we provided some insight, and hopefully we touched on the subjects and had an enjoyable experience that was as adult and civil as we could bring for you. So we do appreciate anyone that would take that kind of dedication to set an alarm in another country just to get up and listen to what we had to say live.
And I'm going to be spending the next 2 to 4 days, as well as you will, hopefully, monitoring the comments on this podcast.
Yeah, and
YouTube.
And unfortunately,
not just the live chat, but the comments.
Yeah, and sometimes it's easier just to turn them off. And again, we don't need to go down that whole free speech censorship argument. But if you don't bully anybody, you don't get your comment deleted. That's kind of usually how it goes. So we appreciate you. You may not appreciate us, and that's fine too, but thanks for joining us. Thank you to Natalie Ryan, our champion at DGLO this last weekend. Congrats, of course, to Kelvin Heimberg and Corey Ellis, who put up the fight that he did. Congratulations to Calvin, though. We just had him here in studio a few weeks ago, and I'm not saying it's a Smashbox bump, but he was here.
He literally spent the night.
Yeah.
And then went to Europe and came back. But
yeah, negating that 12th and 8th place finish. Don't worry about those. But Nate Heinold, also, thank you for wearing the hat of tournament director as well as PDGA board president. We appreciate the additional insight we got from a PDGA's perspective. For Johnny V, I'm Terry Miller, the Disc Golf Guy. That's been welcome to the 414 podcast of Smashbox TV. We're going to take a very quick break, and we'll be back with our after show. We'll see you then. You step inside the Smashbox.
Thank you to our $2 and above patrons. Your name is listed below in the credits. If you are interested in being listed as a producer in the Smashbox TV credits and supporting this and other fine podcasts, please visit patreon.com/SmashboxTV.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Smashbox TV's podcast 414's After Show.
A little quieter. My voice is a little rough right now.
You're a little rough right now. Here we are. Just completed our regular show.
Like
Thank
a
you
rough
guys.
rider. Thank you. Me and DMX.
Yeah. Shut them down, open up shop, roll. I don't think you're a rough rider, roll.
I've never popped a wheelie on a motorcycle.
No.
On a dirt bike I have. Never on a motorcycle. So
Yeah.
I'd probably kill myself.
I think so. All right. Welcome, everyone. As always, this is the podcast after show. Oh, Johnny, we're making it big time. We got adult dating websites spamming our chat.
I know. I just blocked him again.
That's no fun. I wanted to do it.
Blocked him again.
I wanted that. Oh, wait. I know this person.
Awkward.
All right. So here we are in the after show. And although it's East Coast time and it's past midnight, nonetheless, I still need to get the shout out. One of our more winning players in all of disc golf celebrates a birthday today. I'll give you a hint, Johnny. He has more than 100 wins, might even be in the 200 win category. And is pretty darn close to our age.
Felberg?
Nope.
That would match both of those things.
It would.
Brinster.
Bingo.
Okay.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Steve Brinster.
Steve Brinster. Okay, maybe where he's at, it's already the day after, but nonetheless, happy birthday to Steve Brinster. And I was just going to look it up and double check just how many wins that he has.
183. That's my guess.
Wow, I was dead wrong, folks. I can admit when I'm wrong. He only has 108. Nonetheless, I still take nothing.
Get on that, Brinster.
Wow, and almost has picked up a couple more wins this year, but Steve.
That means he didn't.
Correct.
You almost
but Steve
won,
Brinster.
Coriolis almost won this weekend.
That's true. His first ever sanctioned event, advanced Buzzy's Buzz Open. Feels like this is a good trivia question. He won it, a C tier, in July of 1995. So anyway, Steve Brinster, PDGA 1628 is 110 digits off of my number, which is
10628.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, thank you. 10628, and I'm 10738. So he's 110 digits off of mine, and just 2 days away in terms. I think he's a full year younger than me. But anyway, happy birthday, Steve Brinster. So if you're looking for some random trivia, I just gave it to you.
No one will ever ask you.
Nope, not that one. Let's see. I think I actually had some actual notes here for tonight too. Maybe.
What
not.
did you want to talk about tonight, Terry?
I was just going to quickly say that since we're in the after show, last week, shortly after our show, I had the pleasure of getting up early enough to round up a couple children and visit.
Your children?
Yeah, this time they were.
Nice.
No, there was at least one was mine. Visit Six Flags Great America, and boy, oh boy, that was fun.
Did you?
I want to look. I don't know how many there are. That's another good trivia question.
How many Six Flags? There's probably like 7 of them.
Six Flags.
Maybe not even that many. Maybe 5 of them.
No, I feel like there's more than that.
Oh.
I was gonna say like 8 or 9 or 10. I'm counting 2 in California, 2 in Texas, Charlotte, Philadelphia.
Okay, so
I don't
looks
know
like
where that
there's
one is.
10.
There's about 10 or so.
Okay.
One in.
So did
also,
you? Now our Six Flags happens to have a water park attached to it.
Now, yeah.
It does now. Which I have not been to. I have not been there since the water park has been attached.
Mm-hmm.
Did you go on any rides? Did you?
Water park rides? No. I went on all.
You went on all the coasters.
All the coasters we could get on. For those of you that, I mean, some of you are familiar with like a Cedar Point. Six Flags is in that kind of realm. If you're not familiar with the Six Flags, one of the larger amusement parks you'll find in the world, or sets of them. And Yeah, we hit up every roller coaster we could get on. We were there at open at 9:30, 10:30, whatever time the park's open. I think it was 10:30. We were there at open at 10:30, and it closed at 9 p.m. And without buying, because I don't got that kind of money, without buying any fast passes, we went on all of the roller coasters we could possibly get on. And it's been a long time, like a long time, and it was a lot of fun.
I don't think I've been there. I believe the last time I was there with our good friend Steve Held and his wife for Fright Fest before I met my wife, a few months before I met my wife, like a month before I met my wife. So that would be back in 2004. My son's been there a few times with some friends of his. I think my wife has been there once or twice since then. I just have not had a chance to go. I've been busy on a lot of weekends, you know?
Sure. Well, it was a lot of fun, and it definitely had changed. The Shockwave isn't there anymore,
No.
which was kind of an
That's like the
iconic one
Superman
for a
now,
while.
right?
Yeah, they've got a Superman,
Yeah, that
which
was
I did
there.
go on.
That was there even the last time I went there. Shockwave has been down.
Tidal Wave isn't there. That was
No.
one I wish I could have shown the kids.
I believe Tidal Wave was the one that just went like in one loop,
It
up
was
and
one
down,
loop,
like
yep.
back and forth. That was
the
my
simplest of roller coasters in the world.
that was my very first coaster.
Yeah, so it was so ultimately it was 2 13-year-olds and 2 11-year-olds, and then myself and another friend who's not a teenager. I should clarify. And yeah, it turned out to be a really good and long day, but also made for a very long drive over to Michigan, because I was there until 9 p.m. and traveling from Wisconsin over to the Kensington Toboggan area is 5.5, 6 hours of driving roughly. And so Gurney is 1 hour along that route. The problem is I was here till about 2, then got up early enough to get to Six Flags, walked and waited and rode all day, and then got back in the car to then drive another 4 or 5 hours. It made for a very, very long evening, but nonetheless, it was awesome. So I guess my real question is where does everybody go to roller coasters? Because as you and I just looked at the map a moment ago,
Sure.
There Six Flags, at least specifically, and I know there's Disney World and Disneyland and Legoland, for instance, but Six Flags.
Yeah. You want to go to a coaster, you go to Orlando.
Yeah, I mean, where do you go
Cedar Point.
when you live in Utah? Do you go over to California?
I'm sure they've got water parks, probably. I'm sure they've got some small coaster, like a Bay Beach that we have here in Green Bay, where there's
This ain't the same.
no, there's not, like 2 or 3 coasters, and they're probably not extremely, exciting, so to speak. But
Anyway, good times. Let me know what your favorite coaster was. Did you ride Goliath? I did. I'm gonna have to say that was arguably my favorite. I think we went on Max Flight. Was our first one of the day, and then Goliath was one of the last ones. Goliath at Six Flags here in Gurney. Goliath had replaced the Iron Wolf, and the Iron Wolf was iconic because you stood up during it.
That was one of the last ones. That's the roller coaster that I got kicked off of.
Because you're too ugly or too tall?
Too tall, you asshole. Yeah, so I walked up in line, and they've got, obviously the line, you have to be this tall to this tall. And I was I was 6'6", which I'm still pretty close to, but I'm getting old and shrinking. And I think it was about 6'5" to 6'4" was the limit. And all I thought was like, I'm sure they've got some pad in there. Like, it's a standing coaster. So I kind of scrunched down, and then I got to the front of the line.
Mm-hmm. After probably an hour or more wait.
Probably 45-minute wait. And I stood there, and the guy, like, walked me up to the ride, and he looked at me, and he's like, come here for a second. And I was like, shh, crap. And I walked over, and he's like, can you stand up against this wall? And I did my best to kind of stand up straight, but, like, crouch down, like, try to compress my back.
Trick him.
And he was just like, you can't go on this ride. And I was like, really? He's like, yeah, you can't go on this ride. And I wasn't going to be a jerk and like get all up in his face. He's just some teenager that was working, looking out for my best safety, clearly. And so I was like, oh, seriously? And so I had to wait then next to it. They wouldn't let me ride it because I was too tall.
Didn't have that problem.
I know you don't.
All right, reading off the board, Ryan Pilcher, who doesn't live far from where we're talking about, says Iron Wolf was good until it wasn't. Sometimes you would destroy your neck. Same thing with Shockwave. Tim says the Beast at Kings Island, one of the best wooden roller coasters. Yeah, of course, we had taken in American Eagle, which is the
Was it going forward or backward?
It was going forward.
Okay.
And rickety and scary as ever.
See, it's funny because I never found the American Eagle very scary.
No.
It was just, it shook the crap out of you.
Yeah.
Like it was just one of those.
You might leave with a headache.
Oh, yeah. Like it wasn't very scary. I was always a fan of the Demon, the Whizzer.
Yeah.
I'm not a roller coaster guy. They don't really interest me much. And I'm slightly scared of them. So none of that really interests me. But those two were always ones that I was like, they're not that bad. The Demon had, I think, one loop, and the Whizzer had no loops.
Yeah.
So
the Whizzer.
They're beginner roller coasters.
Yeah, the Whizzer is the equivalent of like a 3-disc starter set.
Yes.
that you pick up from Franklin. That's the equivalent.
Yes.
For beginner roller coasters.
Well, I'm not even going to disagree with that.
Oh, Disc Blaster hates theme parks. Imagine that. And then Ryan Pilcher said he lived near Gurney, and that some of the screaming would give him nightmares, which I could possibly understand.
Ray says John Van decapitated. No, I wouldn't have been decapitated. I would have lost my feet probably.
All right, I'm going to get into something real quick. Ray had said, Terry, did you see Gannon throw from the top of a spectator's bag? How should he have played it otherwise? I didn't see the video, but I kind of sort of caught the story the next day in that a disc landed, I believe, on top of a bag,
yes.
A spectator, right?
Spectator's golf bag.
And per the rules, and Gannon was told this, is what I'm told. He was told this, that he could, in fact, move the bag. And Gannon clarified and said, yeah, but can I throw from on it or put my foot on it? And the answer was still the answer was yes, but he had every right within the rules and was told, I believe, by an on-site marshal.
I watched the video.
Okay.
And you could hear someone in the background say, like, more or less egging him on, saying, like, it's a once-in-a-lifetime kind of thing. Please do it. And that's when he asked, like, well, can I do it? And then the hardest part for him was finding a spot to put his mini so that it didn't, like, fall off. So he actually kind of tucked it into the bag a little bit, put his foot on the bag, and then got within 20 to 25 feet of the basket, and I'm assuming hit the putt because it's Gannon.
Mm-hmm.
But then apparently traced where his foot was and signed the bag.
Yeah, so it very much became a novelty and a story because the bag could have been moved. I believe he was told or it was known that he could move the bag, but he didn't want to move the bag because it made for, well, let's face it, a cooler story. So I think it is worth noting, though, that, yes, he had the option to move the bag, and he chose not to, and I can support that as well. But
Disc Blaster saying they said he could play from behind it. So
okay, whatever they told him.
Yeah, one of the other.
He didn't have to stand on the bag. He opted to.
Michael says he parked it from. He didn't park it. Watch that video again. He was a good 20 feet away.
Oh, well, parking it is different for everybody, I guess.
Oh, Michael. For you, 20-footers are parking it.
For Johnny, that's a knee knocker.
That is
and maybe
scary.
A 3-putt. All right, so let's
if it rolls away.
Watch what you're saying out there. I quickly seeing that Peter Weingard is out there. I saw Peter and had the pleasure of catching up with him, one of Michigan's finest. And
Weingard is a family name for me. It's my grandmother's.
Is he your dad?
My grandmother's maiden name.
So, is there any chance you're related? He's taller than you.
I mean, there is. I bet you, if you go back some generations, there might be a chance we share a relative somewhere.
This is making me feel uncomfortable because I like him a lot.
I know, but my grandma Weingard, rest her soul, lived to be 97 or 99 or something like that, and was like the scariest woman I remember growing up, because she was so old. She was old as long as I knew her, and she died when I was in my mid-teens. But she was old, and you went into her house, and it was like a typical 80s old woman house. Furniture covered in clear plastic, so you can't sit on it. She smoked like a chimney, and she had like the almost like a turkey gobbler neck because her skin was so saggy, but she was so skinny. But she lived forever, and she was probably a very nice woman. But when you're, 7, 8, 9, 10, she's scary, man. And her house always just stunk like cigarette, because she smoked all day long. And but yeah, Weingard, that's my grandmother's maiden name.
All right. Well,
so we might be related.
That would be
Peter.
I'd feel so sorry. Someone, Tommy Hawk said, "Did you guys talk about Brody?" We didn't. Brody, I know, finished very well. That's I talked to him briefly while he was warming up, and that was the extent of it. I don't know if there's more of a story there that needs talking about, but I do know that he had finished very well. So congrats to Brody for doing just that. I think maybe there's another piece to that, that he had also significantly moved up in maybe the world rankings.
Could be.
And this isn't directed at Brody. This is directed at anyone. Which effing rankings? We say it all the time. I don't know what ratings or rankings are whose anymore, and whose matter the most.
Mine.
Statmandos.
My ranking.
UDIS. PDGAs. Disc Golf Pro Tours. Infinite Discs, maybe, I think, have one. Steve Dodge's, some other websites. I'm not dismissing any one of them. I'm dismissing all of them. No, I'm not. I'm not. They're all derived differently, and however you want to get it there. And if you're within a few spots of each on each one, then maybe that sounds great. But if you're in 10th in one and 29th in another and 35th in another and second in yet another one, that would drive my point home too. I can't keep up or barely care, because everyone's going to weight whichever one a little bit differently. So wherever he moved up, I'm glad that he has.
Someone on the board, and I can't find it now because I scrolled a little bit, asked if the DGN numbers have continued to go up as far as subscribers. And while I can't give you hard numbers, I will say that I do know that they have continued to rise, and I think they're pretty happy with where they're at. Obviously, they always want more. So if you're not a DGN subscriber, please, by all means, and subscribe. It's the place where you find disc golf, not on YouTube.
Oh, with that, do we want to play a trailer?
I'd have to dig it up. Hold on.
What else has been in the news? And she talked about it briefly. It was an exclusive piece of information last week that the Paige Pierce documentary, Fierce, or should I say Fierce, a disc golf documentary, is going to be August 10th, limited screening. There was an email that I got. Tickets for it are $11.99, but current Disc Golf Network subscribers can enjoy a 50% discounted price of $5.99.
Is that on the Disc Golf Network's YouTube?
It is. Good question. Oh, here. Let's purchase your ticket. Let's see where this takes me. And I guess I could just forward
me the link, Terry Miller.
All right, I will forward it to you. And we have an exclusive, non-exclusive screening of the trailer here. Huh, Johnny? You like where I'm going with this?
I always love where you're going, Terry.
Let me send it to you.
Please do, and then we'll play it. Because it was played like a dozen times.
Was it? Obviously, I wasn't exactly watching. I was too busy stealing discs from the fairway or from the rough.
No, I think it was played each day.
The entire thing?
The
entire
the
trailer?
30s. There's a few trailers out there, by the way.
Well, then there
some
you go.
privately, some public.
Well, here's a trailer that was put out there.
Did you send it to me?
I think I did. Is there another? Oh, I sent it to... Hey, Tom McManus, hope you're still watching.
Thanks, Tom.
Oh, good thing I didn't send something nastier.
Ooh. Oh, there it is.
Tom McManus, PDGA 1276, inducted into the Illinois Disc Golf Hall of Fame a few weeks ago.
All right, so let's do
All right, so here's what we're queuing up. we can have this discussion. I know some people, here's the long and short of it. Paige said last week that in order for someone like a Netflix and for some festivals and other people to look into airing or hosting or buying a documentary of this nature, they have to look at the people that have essentially paid for it, and there's power in those analytics. And I understand that some people have had some issues with this. I understand some people said, well, I supported the fundraiser. Some people are saying I'm not paying another dime for anything ever. I hear all of your arguments. All we're doing here is spreading the love and sharing it. If you feel so inclined, as I've told others, I'm maybe a little bit more vested, but I gladly supported the Indiegogo. I donated time and energy and money to also be a part of it. And I'm more than happy to also pay for the pay-per-view version of it. I like to support filmmakers, and I like to support disc golfers and disc golfer content. So those are the reasons why I'm on board. If you don't want to be, that's okay too. Here we go. They for sure have volume?
Maybe not. No volume. All right, hold on one second, guys. Why can't I can't. Oh, that's why.
Oh, Johnny, pressing buttons.
I was pressing there on.
Hey, remember
buttons.
that one time I played that Instagram thing over and over and over on my nightly recap? All right, Johnny's gonna press a few more buttons, and we'll be able to restart this and give you guys volume.
Should be able to do that.
We'll restart it with volume.
You know what?
And if you don't hear from us tonight, then good night. No.
Now, you know what? I'm not going to bother. I don't know if I can get volume into the computer from the computer through the computer, so I'm just going to say forget that.
All right, folks. Here's what I'm going to do.
But by all means, go to I think it's probably free on the Disc Golf Network. You can go out there and watch it. If you saw the podcast or the broadcast this weekend, it's out there. Yeah.
Johnny's a professional. Can I ban that comment, Ray? No, I just put a link out there, and it should probably bring you to what we were just about to show you. Yeah, there you go, David. I double check, but that should get you there. But don't go there now, because we've got important stuff to talk about here.
Sure.
We don't? All right.
Yeah.
Quick plug this weekend. Not only a WGE event, which unfortunately, or the WGE is going on, which I feel like is
Women's global event.
Yeah, has experienced some light attendance this year. There was a conversation recently about if moving it to August in any way hurt its overall attendance. I mean, I guess we're always trying new things and seeing what it's going to take. But not only is that going on, but also specifically down at in Silver Lake, Wisconsin, a place where I normally host a few events. We're having a Flex Start C-tier that is taking place. So if you want to compete in that this weekend, a Flex Start, you get a bunch of merchandise and other neat things. And you get to play a pretty solid course. So that's going on this weekend, the Gray Fox Flex. Show up anytime between 9 and 3 to play in the event. And I'm going to link to that as well. Just getting all the plugs in here, folks. There we go.
Yeah, Tyler Brickley just joined the show. He did miss the opportunity to ban people tonight.
Oh, Tyler. Well, no, it's not too late.
Oh, yeah, that's true. There's plenty of people you can still ban.
Be some banning of people.
Seth McDonald asks, Terry, who's the most fun golfer for you to interview? Is there somebody that, like, when they shoot well, you think, oh, good, I get to interview this person.
I used to be and I feel like a lot of people could say this and recognize it. There used to be a different type of challenge to interviewing Kelvin Heimberg. And now I really embrace it. I embrace both the challenge and the fun that goes along with it. Naturally, it's, maybe it's no surprise that it also translates and carries over, but anytime you talk to Simon, it's part of his heritage or culture that he's very blunt, very straightforward. He's not afraid to tell you what he's thinking. And if you ask a less than intelligent or pointed question, he'll call you out on it. So I've heard, but yeah, I mean, Simon's also, let's face it, there's a lot of players that are a lot of fun to talk to, but it may be no surprise that Simon is usually one of your more entertaining and fun to talk to.
He's very honest and blunt.
Yeah.
That makes it easier and more fun.
Okay. David John, I don't know what math you're doing, spoke earlier on this, but the size of Finland is 338 kilometers squared, and Finland is about 150, depending on how, I don't know what you're talking about, but I think you're mixing up some of your stats there. Jay Redding and I ran into Johnny and his daughter in Madison on hole 18 at Token Creek a few weeks ago, so that's a double smash box for me.
Yes.
Very nice. Carney says, "Are we done?" I don't think we're done.
Are we done here? I mean, we can be. I don't know.
I mean, there's just a little X or Alt F4 could get you on your way if you need to. Or maybe you're talking about something. Oh, you guys are talking about, I get it. You're talking about Calvin when I interviewed him. I didn't go back and watch it, but on the Champions interview, him and I did the interview.
Oh, yeah.
And then he just, I think you probably picked up in the mic. I get it. He picked up in the mic and he said, "Are we done?"
Yeah.
I should go back and watch that. I don't usually go watch those.
That was very funny. I watched tonight, so my wife went to Chill on the Hill, which is like a little music thing they do in a park every weekend. Left me and my daughter here, so we watched the new version of Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers.
Oh, wow.
The movie, which
I was just wondering about that.
I honestly think you would love it.
Okay.
It has basically every throwback to the 90s. So imagine you took, because that was right around our prime time for cartoony kind of thing, like Darkwing Duck, Rescue Rangers, that era. We were in our early teens, probably 12, 10, 11, 12, 13-ish. Early 90s. And they completely take that whole time period and make a joke of it through the entire movie, to the point where I saw Paul Abdul and Scat Cat at one point.
MC Scat Cat?
MC Scat Cat.
Opposites attract.
Yes. It was, I laughed so many times at that movie. And obviously my daughter, who doesn't get half of it, or any of it practically, because she doesn't understand how, some of the humor behind it. But every 90s joke you would almost imagine was there, just slapping you in the face on purpose. So I did get a kick out of it. It's like an hour and 20-minute movie. It's got, I think, Andy Samberg voices one of the things, as well as John Mulaney.
Okay.
And there's a few other voices you'd recognize. But I'll say, if you're about our age and you watched any of those cartoons growing up, please, by all means, go out and watch that movie. It's on Disney Plus. It's funny. At one point, they kind of talk about this story, how Chip 'n Dale got how they got too big for themselves. They were the biggest thing on the earth. And the guy's like, I was doing the Roger Rabbit with Roger Rabbit. And they show Roger Rabbit, like a new, someone animated Roger Rabbit into the scene. And I was like, that's kind of funny at a club. So enjoyed it. It was worth it. The hour and 20 minutes on Disney Plus. So.
Okay. I'll have to save that for maybe
it's
my next plane ride.
Yeah, it's a good flight. Yes, opposites attract.
Not attack.
Not attack,
as I wrote. I like it. I wonder if the U.S. realizes they're so big and has the opportunities about attending an event versus Finland crowd all showing up for one. I think that very much factors into it, David John.
Yeah.
Just in general. I mean, and I said this while we were there. Of course, I personally take it for granted. Other players and people maybe even take it for granted. If you don't see our top level players, for instance, at Idlewild, maybe it's just a couple hours for you to get to Michigan to watch them at DGLO. And if you couldn't get there, maybe it was just a couple hours the other way, depending on where you are, to get over to see them at Ledgestone, or a few of them at Mid-America. I mean, and those are just 4 weekends in a row, or not too long ago when they were over in Minnesota. So look at that surface area and that, the positioning in which you could go see them. Whereas in Finland, Paul Macbeth's going to be in Finland exactly one time this year. And so clearly people from multiple countries just turn out because this is maybe their one time every 2 years that they actually get to see some of these players. And I think that's a very reasonable assumption that some of them are turning out largely because this is the one opportunity they get. I don't know if we're going to continue to see these massive crowd sides continue to grow and expand from what we've seen over the last few weeks, but certainly is possible. And when I think about where Ledgestone's located and then the player base that is in Iowa, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Illinois, Indiana, there's no reason we might not see, there's no reason we couldn't see, even though there's 2 double negatives there. Yeah, a huge turnouts at Ledgestone in a week or so.
I want everyone to know that the number 1 pickleball player in the world is from Wisconsin now.
Of course he is.
Yeah. Zane Navratil, which is really funny because one of my very close friends, her name is Jessica Navratil. I think it's her nephew.
Oh, are you guys related to Peter Weingart?
And I don't think she is. Like I said, me and Pete, we might be 12th cousins or something. But yeah, pickleball. He's a 3-time tennis champ apparently, and now
imagine that
it transfers right over to pickleball. So
okay, good to hear. Dan says, "Love you, Smashbox. I'm hitting it. If I win the prize, please send it to some junior player of choice." Appreciate that, Dan. Have a good night. David says it was interesting because it is half the population of North Carolina and so many people.
Patreon updated their page.
Oh, look at that. All right, I'm going to scroll up and see if there was anything else that needed to be talked about. I see some other conversations. Oh, there was no volume. Okay, yep, got that. Oh, I think I think it was Kimberly who posted something about waffles or pancakes. I feel like we didn't. Was that just last week we had that conversation?
That was last week.
Here's the question Team MVP always gets asked: waffles or pancakes? We had that. Where were you?
Yeah, you're not here.
Go check the
Somebody
tapes.
else asked us waffles.
Yes.
And for the reference, for the most part, it's pancakes. But,
Nope,
but if I'm at a hotel, it's waffles because I like to make my own waffles. They taste better than the flopsy pancakes they have there. But when I'm at home, my wife makes great pancakes.
Also getting news. Weather might get gnarly tonight. Is that here in Wisconsin?
I believe our weather is going to get gnarly tomorrow.
Well, I know when by gnarly, I'm not sure what you mean, but I do believe we're supposed to have some. Last time I looked, it was some nasty, really warm, probably humid temperatures tomorrow, which is too bad because I really want to play some golf in the next few days.
I didn't realize that our local Tuesday night golf league is now basically a flex start. You can just show up whenever you want.
Ooh.
Because
I just might have to get into that.
Our local friend was saying how he had a tea time, so to speak, at 4:30. And I was like, what, you're not there till 9 o'clock every night?
Yeah. Which
is what it used to be. You used to start at 6 and go till, dark, more or less. And he's like, no, I show up at 4:30, get that crap done and get out of there, be home by 7:30 or 8.
Okay.
So that's awesome.
David John,
I could see doing that now.
Did we talk about rules violations? I think we did. So rewind. Oh God, bury me if I'm ever decrepit to find bouncing around a pickleball court button. That's almost a complete sentence, but I think I get your drift, and that's okay. Nobody's making you play pickleball. Woke up late this morning in Thailand, and is your schedule set to swine and Heiser brownie? I will. What David's asking about is next year. There is already talks of a Southeast Asia disc golf tour of sorts, and tour we're using in light quotes only because it's a collection of potentially 3 or 4-ish events that may all follow week in or week after week. And they've been doing this. The organizers had been doing this for a number of years, so that if somebody did want to travel to that area and wanted to play multiple events over a span of a month, that every weekend, usually in a different country, there was an opportunity to play. I think that conversation has already very much begun, and I am definitely going to be some part of the Southeast Asia tour and video coverage. To what degree, I'm not sure yet, but sponsorship opportunities will be available, and it will be a really good time. So look for me to talk about that quite a bit more, but that's going to be January and February of next year.
I do want everyone to know that I have ordered the minis, the studio minis that were on back order now that Dynamic has some custom Dymax minis available again. So I ordered 6 of them for our six Patreon supporters at the $5 level that have been patiently waiting for their mini.
Thank you. And also, one of these days I'll bring over, we have some discs that finally had arrived, and you and I can sign those and get those out as well. So thank you to all of our Patreon supporters for those. Something that came up this week that we didn't touch on yet. An official, unofficial announcement of another celebrity-involved exhibition matchup / tournament to take place in November. So announced just a few days ago at the press conference, Seth Finley of the Disc Golf Pro Tour, said that in November, we're going to see, in conjunction with Paul Macbeth Foundation, another celebrity pro-am, I'm not going to guess, skins, stroke play, whatever. It's going to be something of that nature, and it's going to be of a much, I don't want to just say grander scale, but it will be. It will be hosted at an 18-hole course that's not in Ben Askren's backyard. Therefore, there won't be the significant challenges that are found with having general public, and that's all to take place in November of this year. So unfortunately, that's about all the details I feel like I can share with you. If there were more given, then you have to check the presser. I don't remember what's confidential and what's not. So that's what I'm going to leave it at, is it's taking place beginning in November. I think it was mentioned Florida. I'll mention Florida, and it's going to be happening. So that should be pretty cool to see. How does Ian make his way to Milwaukee so frequently? He lives in California, right?
He does. He flies here when there's an event. He usually gets here either late the night before or very, very early in the morning at like 2 or 3 in the morning. And that first day, by the end of the day, he's pretty wrecked. But yeah, he travels every time.
Yeah, so essentially, Ray, he does the exact same thing that I do when I go out to Bend. And I'll give you a great example. Ian was just here for this weekend in Milwaukee when we have the Des Moines Challenge in a few weeks. I am going from Milwaukee out to Bend, where I'll stay. I'll arrive probably Thursday. Yeah, I'm arriving Thursday. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, I will be the host, and so essentially do what Ian does. I'll be the host along with Nate and Val for Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I won't get out in time to catch a flight, unfortunately, on Sunday night, so I'll spend the night Sunday night. First thing Monday morning, I'm on like a 5:20 flight to then fly back to Milwaukee. So I'm doing essentially the exact same thing as Ian is doing, except for he's flying from San Diego to Milwaukee. I'm going from Milwaukee over to Bend. So at least for that particular event. And for, I think, a couple of events as we start to close out the year. I believe I'm in Bend for both the Pro Tour, not the All-Stars, but for the Pro Tour finale. I think also MVP and GMC, I am in Bend for those weekends.
Gosh, we're getting a lot of the
spammers. Ray says, wow, DGN is spending lots of money on travel. That's cool. I mean, it has its pros and cons. We've talked about this extensively. You know, there is, in theory, could Ian be host from someplace in San Diego and stay there and not travel? He he absolutely could. I mean, the technology exists. Some remote commentary has happened where for Silver Series, we've had 2 different commentators in 2 different cities. It is abundantly clear and obvious that when the commentators are in the same room experiencing the exact same things at the same time together, it makes for a better show. That's just what it does. I mean, there's nonverbals, just like when Johnny and I do a podcast, and when we're both in the same room, it generally flows better as opposed to it being in when I'm on the road. It works when I'm on the road, but it definitely is better. Well, for some, it's better for some when we're sitting next to one another. So, all right. Great job on the course last weekend, Terry. Thank you. I appreciate that, DGLO. Ian is awesome, and Smashbox is the greatest podcast. I quit telling lies here. I cannot believe the non-constructive criticism from Trevor about Ian out of... I don't know what you speak of, and so, okay. I don't know what you speak of.
Oh, yes, we do need to talk about dogs and puppies and the DGPT.
Oh.
Yeah,
we can.
We skirted over that. We didn't even talk about it. We didn't think about it. There were, from a control room perspective, there were 2 shots I felt like I missed this weekend. One was due to technology. Vin on the playoff. Corey Ellis walks up to his line, looks down, and one of our systems locks up. And it just freezes. And so we get our other camera there in place to get his shot very quickly. Whip him over there. Corey Ellis takes his shot, misses his putt for the circle 3. And by the time our guy was able to swing around and get back to Vinny had chucked under the basket. And then we got to watch Vinny tap in. That was that. I was not happy about that. I felt like the technology failed me there. The other shot I missed was Paige Pierce on hole 18 on round 2. When there was a dog that started running around the green on 18. That's Sarah Holcomb's dog. And I had a camera on Paige. First we pulled out. We saw the dog running around. I had a close-up on Paige. I thought I was almost 100% certain she was going to reset. Give me a chance. And then that would give me a chance to switch the camera to the right camera because I was on the reaction. I had a close-up of her face. Didn't phase her. It did not phase that woman. She put right through that puppy. It's an 1.5 inches low on the basket. And you don't see the shot. You hear the basket, hear it hit, and you see Paige's reaction. But Sarah Holcomb was assessed a event. Was it a warning?
Courtesy warning or event warning? Something
an event warning, basically saying, hey, and she admitted that should never happen, that the puppy should have been on the leash. I don't exactly know the circumstance of what happened, but Sarah was very apologetic about it on her Instagram post.
Yeah, essentially what did happen, and I think I saw her significant other, Chris, had said basically it was sometime after their round, they opened the door, or at some point he opened the door, and the dog just ran out and wasn't on the leash and then ran out and then sure enough ran all the way to the 18th green, which I would say feels uncharacteristic of her dog, Raven. But did run all the way to the 18th green, as you said, issued an event warning, which is, in my opinion, is very fair. Clearly it was accidental and not intentional, blah, 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 all those things. And then also she suffered no legitimate penalty because of it. She just was issued a warning. And so that did happen. It was unique in that we don't see something of that nature. I think at certain tournaments to see a fox or squirrels or some other wild animals run around, obviously far more maybe common or expected. But yeah, in this case, unfortunately, it was... And speaking of dogs, I think I can share the secret now because I think they just posted about it tonight.
Oh, secrets.
I learned, around the putting green this weekend, just before the final round, Garrett Girthy and Jessica Weiss have, in fact, picked up a new new item to their family, a new member of their family. And I don't see, they picked up a female dog, and I forget what he said for the name. And it was also not a breed of dog that I'm intimately familiar with. It's out there. But anyway, best of luck, Garrett Gerthy and Jessica Weiss. They have a dog. Tilly is the name. And if I keep clicking, I saw a picture. It's absolutely adorable, but I apologize. I have no idea what type of dog it is. He showed me pictures the other day. What? Congrats to them. Certainly becoming a more and more common theme and trend, right?
Yeah. As someone says, van life is no life for dogs, in their opinion. I don't know. I'm not.
I mean, Jessica and Double G don't play at the same time, like
correct,
essentially ever. So,
but should dogs be allowed in the park?
That's a park rule.
Correct. That's.
That's what it always comes down to, right? That's a park rule and or a lodging rule. If you go to, obviously, if you live that van or camper life, and then you go to campgrounds primarily, then obviously you have to be adhering to all the campground rules and regulations. I mean, that those are personal decisions and responsibilities that they'll now have to take upon themselves. It's just certainly becoming more and more of a commonality out there. I think of Cynthia Ricciardi along with Kyle Klein, who got a dog way back in February-ish time frame. And there's just a number of dogs out there on the tour.
Lisa Fakis has a cat.
Lisa Fakis. I think Holly Finley has a cat.
I mean, it's fine as long
Hogan,
as long as we see. Personally, I would like to see no dogs allowed on the course. And
there might even be a rule of that nature
because we see all the time. Trust me, because we show
a player can't have a dog on the course.
Correct, but I don't want to see spectators with dogs.
Yeah, and there might be policies with regard to that.
We see this all the time because we show it every time.
Yeah,
because obviously Mo is a big fan of showing animals on the course. So if we see a dog, Mo gets all excited, and it's a joke. It's a running joke between him and I that I won't show the dog, and he wants me to show the dog, and inevitably we usually show the dog. But what if Sarah Holcomb's dog had grabbed a disc? What if any dog? What if any dog that a spectator brings? What if any dog that a player has?
Yeah, you replace it to where it was closest. But the point is, what happens when they bite through the disc, ruin the disc, and all of those things, or they do it on the third hole. They've either ruined the disc and or run off with it, and it's you don't get it tracked down until 5 holes later. I mean, I don't disagree with all of the problems that can come.
This
with it.
is the first incident we've seen with an issue with a dog that I've heard about with Sarah Holcomb's dog. So I don't want to jump to any sort of.
You don't want to bark up any tree.
I don't want to bark up the wrong tree. Correct, Terry. I just think that it's very. I don't want to see dogs on the course, period. If they want to stay in the parking lot, that's fine. If they want to stay, but I don't think you should. We had 2,500 people there this weekend on Sunday. And I don't know about this, but there should not have been a dog. No spectator should be allowed to bring a dog in.
Yeah, and
period.
I believe there is a policy that states that.
More
How
than
much
likely.
it's enforced or not, I don't know, but I believe there is when you purchase and somebody can correct me if I'm wrong because I haven't purchased any Disc Golf Pro Tour tickets, but I believe I was told that if you purchase a Disc Golf Pro Tour ticket, at least at some of the venues, it has said you're not allowed to bring a dog along. And people are going to immediately twist this into saying like we're anti-animals or anti-dogs. That's not it at all. It's just part of the rule and the policy that you're not allowed to.
And to me, if spectators can't bring in dogs, personally, on event days, I don't think players should be able to bring them in either.
Onto the course.
Into the park, in my opinion. Well, onto the course. We'll say onto the course because the parks can be big.
Kensington is 4,400 acres.
Exactly. It's huge, and they could stay away from the course or whatever. But I don't want to see a player walking from one hole to another stop and pet a dog. I just don't. I don't think they should be there. I don't think they're too unpredictable.
I hear you. And
I also feel that way about very, very small children probably too. It's you.
I do not stop and pet a child.
Yeah. That's very bad, Terry. Do not do that. I think you need to have there needs to be boundaries, and you know it's difficult, and I don't want to stop children from coming. I think children and animals are clearly a different thing because parents have a responsibility, just like pet owners have a responsibility. But it's coming. It's coming at some point. We're going to see a problem with a pet run on a course again. I don't know. They should be away from the course, in my opinion. I should never see a dog on a camera, is what I'm saying.
Just reading on the competition manual, 305, letter F, for those players wishing to use a carrying device. Approved carrying devices include disc golf bags, foldable chairs, and push cart companions. No animals, motor-driven, or bicycle-type devices shall be allowed as a carrying device at any PDGA event. So it just says no animals.
Well, you can't use an animal as a caddy is what it's saying,
Yeah.
Terry. We all know that, I think. Well, okay. Well, maybe I won't say we all know that, but correct. You cannot use a caddy or an animal as a caddy. Just like you can't use anyone under 13 as a caddy. I'm just saying.
But in dog years, if a dog is 2 and it's 14, no.
Yeah, I mean, it's just going to take one incident with a player's dog biting a spectator, grabbing something and running. I don't know. I just personally, I don't want to see animals on the course that don't belong in the park. That don't live in the park.
Well, you're sure as hell no Sarah McLachlan. Jeez.
No, she doesn't want to see him in cages, and neither do I.
Okay.
I will remember you as long as you're not in a cage. I don't want to see him in cages either, Terry.
So letter to Voltaire. How about a miniature horse for a caddy? Answers no. Says no animals. No animals.
Sorry.
Sue says you can't ban service animals. I feel like I don't even want to quote myself. Somewhere in here, the PDGA does discuss service animals as either caddies or being along with you. And again, I don't even want to say anything incorrectly, but I don't believe that you can even have a service animal with you unless there's maybe some application process or exemption. Let's just not ever, hopefully, get to having to have that conversation.
Yeah,
would be a better way to.
Too many people abuse service animal status.
Smashbacks, pull up the UDisc article about llamas caddies. I don't know what you're talking about.
No.
Where are the wheelchair ramps? This is an issue in Minnesota about the parks. I mean, yeah, there are wheelchair friendly and or accessible courses that exist, and I think you can even designate them as such when depending on where you're filling out your course information. And the little that I've known of that topic with regard to course design is some of the gray areas that exist, but then also there's some very specific specifications. And I say that because here in Wisconsin, there are 2 recreational facilities right here in Milwaukee, and we had talked about making them wheelchair friendly, and we had to be very careful about the verbiage that could be used, whether it was wheelchair accessible and versus wheelchair friendly. And so there's 2 3-hole courses, and I know course we could put in air quotes, but there's 2 3-hole courses here in the Milwaukee area that I help dig the holes for and install that, depending on the equipment used, could be considered wheelchair friendly. Did
you do the one over at Doctor's Park here? There is a small 3-hole course, which I literally found out last Wednesday.
Is it called Doctor's? Is it part of Willoway Grant?
No, it's literally up.
Then no. I did Willoway Grant and
it's
Willoway.
3 minutes up the road. We went there for they basically had, a beer in the park, and it's nearby. My son wanted to meet some friends there, so my wife and I went there and met some parents and stuff like that, as we do. Got some free root beer, and my wife got some free regular beer. But I was pulling in there, and I was like, holy crap, there's a basket. Cool. Thinking they just had one basket, and I pulled it up on UDisc. Apparently they have 3. It's a 3-basket course.
Yeah, that one.
About 140 feet.
One I was not involved with at the time. There is Willoway Grant and Willoway Underwood, which are the 2 that I'm referencing. So go hit them up. 2 3-hole courses. All right. Pretty much every course is wheelchair accessible
For PGA, I think it's regular golf courses.
Every golf course is. Okay. Played an event, and a guy with a motorized wheelchair. Was awesome to see him out throwing. Well, it wasn't a secret. The guy was a veteran. Doesn't make sense. Stokely. Great. Okay. All right. I don't know if we've got anything else. I feel like we've touched on.
We can just do our Patreon giveaway.
All right. Why don't you line that up?
I have it ready.
Attaboy.
Terry, if you want to be eligible, like you personally, if you would like to be eligible for this win,
signing up.
You would just have to sign up at patreon.com/smashboxtv, and you can be entered into our weekly giveaway where we give something away to our Patreon supporters. Usually it's a disc. Sometimes it's a disc member box. Sometimes we find something else that's cool. So I'm just letting you know that you're currently not eligible, Terry. So if you sign up at Patreon, you can. I'm a Patreon supporter of quite a few other things. I think 7 or 8 different other Patreons. So there, eat that, Miller. Yeah, we have 169 people eligible for tonight's giveaway. Terry, how would you like us to proceed with this? What number should we draw? I've sorted them by email address tonight.
Oh, by email address. So I think the third one that you pulled.
The third one. Okay, so the first one is 115. The second one is 106.
Oh, definitely higher.
Higher. Terry's going higher than 106. It is 154.
Told you.
Congratulations,
Told you.
Terry.
What do I win?
You win nothing. Like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. You win nothing.
Snozzberries. Who's ever heard of snozzberries?
Nice. Well pulled. Good pull, Terry. Chris Stillwell.
Chris. Love it.
Chris Stillwell is our winner tonight. Congratulations, Chris. We'll have Terry reach out to you. I'll send this information to him. We are going to sign you up for the love-chat.xyz best adult dating site, all emoji. So that's what you get.
We love it.
So I hope you don't mind, Chris. I don't know your current status as far as your relationship status, but with love-chat.xyz, who's on our board, you can't lose.
No, you got X, Y, and Z all covered. That sounds like the place you want to be. So we'll make sure to send them all of your information. We'll just go to their site and submit your information. You could win more with them. I'm not sure what that will be, but you could win more on their incredible website as well. All right. Holy cow. It's been a long enough night, and I think it's almost that time.
I agree. I'm ready to be done because my voice and everything in my head says it's time to be done.
Yeah, they were done with you a long time ago.
I'm okay with that. 100% okay with that.
All right, guys, we're going to close it out. We want to thank you for joining us. As always, we had a very stout crowd here tonight, and we're so honored that you guys join us. Please consider liking, sharing, subscribing, do all those YouTube things that we like to talk about. We do appreciate it. And, of course, if you do find us on or have found us on one of the audio podcast solutions, if you give us 500 stars, we would appreciate that as well. Got to boost that rating.
That's right.
We're not doing it on the course.
Speak for yourself.
For Natalie Ryan, our champion at DGLO, who we had in the regular show, along with Nate Heinold, who gave us some great insight and some behind-the-scenes action for big tournaments as well as the PDGA. We appreciate both of you for joining us. To all of our Patreon supporters, to all of the super chatters, to all of the live chatters, most of you have been amazing, and we appreciate all of that, the love and the support. Thank you guys for joining us. Thanks for having a great conversation and experience with us tonight. We appreciate it. For Johnny V, I'm Terry Miller, the Disc Golf Guy. That's been podcast 414's After Show. We'll see you next week when you step inside the Smash Box.